G'day and welcome to On The Esky, an Aussie sports podcast where we like to wrap up the week or fortnight that was in sport. Unofficially brought to you by Capital Brewing.com out of...
Still?
Yeah, still working on these ones from your wedding. How many have you got left? A few boxes.
I checked this morning. There's 3 cases left.
That's okay. We're making a dent. We're making a dent. This week's show, the AusOpen, the 2 weeks of the year where we get really fired up about tennis because it's in a really convenient time zone. The weather's warm, a few beers and tennis.
Too warm.
Tennis in prime time. Yeah, a bit of heat wave action, as seems to be the case every Australian Open. Melbourne seems to turn it on in terms of the weather for a couple of weeks. But Arena Sabalenka, she's got her maiden title, and Joker and Tsitsipas tonight, plus cricket.
Big.
Turns out Steve Smith is really, really, really good at cricket, whether he's wearing white, whether he's wearing magenta, hot pink. He's hot at cricket. Big Bash finals, we still don't really understand exactly how they work. There's some kind of top 5 with qualifiers and eliminators and the rest of it.
It's the names that trip us up every year.
Yeah, I think so. Names, not our forte on this podcast, let's be honest. India looked a bit scary against New Zealand, as they tend to in white ball cricket, although did drop a T20 over the weekend. NFL Playoffs Championship weekend, baby. Let it rain. I'm doing my rain dance here. Rain day tomorrow means me on the couch in the morning watching the championship games. We are talking 49ers, Eagles. We're talking Bengals, Chiefs, NBA. The All-Stars are announced, and there's a guy called LeBron James. You may or may not have heard of him. He's pretty close to getting the all-time scoring record. Rugby League is not too far around the corner. Hopefully,
if it starts.
If things go to plan, we'll discuss that. A little bit of EPL, FA Cup, Everton, an absolute mess. And new light heavyweight champion of the world, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill, knocks out Glover Teixeira. Well, didn't knock him out. He ended his career, I suppose, 43. We'll talk about Glover glowingly, I'd imagine. Please remember, we have timestamps. You can skip to the sports that you like. Check us out on the socials, subscriptions, etc. And check out the Carlton Draft. That's Carlton, D-R-A-F-T. Use the code ESKY for 20% off any of their gear. We like to start off the show by shouting a beer to commend good work in the sporting arena. Sean, you going to your Denver Broncos?
Yes,
Is that the plan?
I'll start, but before I do, Jimmy, can you just adjust Peps? I think Peps is a little bit too loud.
In life or my microphone?
Microphone, in this case.
Probably both.
we may have bumped it with a bit of practice around there. Okay, cool.
Maybe.
Have you got the sound effects ready to go, by the way?
Maybe.
Oh.
We'll have to find out.
quick check.
All right, shout a beer.
Okay, shout a beer for me. I had one from last week, which was the big story about Derek Wolfe with his hunting down of a massive mountain lion that was terrorizing people in Colorado. So full movie kind of storyline with that. So I recommend anyone that wants to know more about that, check it out.
He did it with his bare hands, did he?
I don't think so, but it was massive. Like it was a huge mountain lion. So
big old bobcat.
Yeah, the wolf hunting the mountain lion.
If it wasn't bare hands, I'm pretty sure it was bow and arrow.
Yes, yeah, it was.
At least, yeah.
Cheating. Wolves tend to use their teeth, don't they? Hunters in packs, pack animals.
But the one I wanted to shout a beer out, continuing, I guess, a terrible theme of mine of past Broncos that have health issues. Peyton Hillis actually out of hospital, so fully recovered
good.
and
Yep.
he's been dismissed. But this week, Chris Baker, nose tackle for Denver and Washington, had a stroke during the week at 35. So
35.
they're saying it's a miracle he's alive, but luckily the case is he is, and he seems to be doing all right and recovering. But yeah, another former Denver Bronco there with some bad health issues, and you can kind of see the toll it takes of a big boy playing nose tackle and the size and etc. And by all accounts, I think he's lost a bunch of weight since he stopped playing, but still 35 for a stroke is not what you want to be having.
Maybe a non-alcoholic beer for him to have.
Take it easy.
And wishing him a good recovery. It's interesting, isn't it? It's one of the few sports in the world where a few of the positions require you to be obese, to put it lightly. Joe Thomas, probably future Hall of Famer in terms of...
there's heaps of the offensive linemen. As soon as they retire, they drop 60 pounds.
Yeah, and they start swimming and running and they just drop all this weight, but they need to be big man mountains to stop, the defenders getting to the quarterback.
Well, you see it, the extra cushioning is definitely used to help like a long NFL season. Like they you see the guys that maybe a little bit undersized struggle a little bit, and the guys that are a bit more pudgy can take those extra hits a bit longer. So it's an interesting, I guess, science into the human body, studying NFL offensive linemen.
Wishing him a speedy recovery. Monks, you've got a retirement down here?
Yeah. So this week I am shouting Dan Christian a beer. I suppose we talk a lot about the differences between the short form and long form of cricket. Dan Christian obviously being a specialist in that short form for quite a long time. Has decided last week to... Did you hang up the boots? Hang up the bat?
Gloves.
Hang up the gloves. Let's go gloves.
He's a bit of an all-rounder, but yeah.
He is an all-rounder, yeah. Decided to hang up the gloves and call it a day from cricket. So just quickly reading out some of his T20 stats, which was obviously special. He played for around about 105, 108 games, made 5,809 runs, 200s. Being an all-rounder, he took 280 wickets. His best bowling performance was 5 for 14.
In the BBL not that long ago.
Yeah, that's it. He's sort of just been that, I guess, gun for hire all across the world, played for so many teams.
19
I knew
teams.
He
played for a bit, 19 different T20 teams.
Played a lot, obviously, in the IPL, played in the Caribbean as well. Won about 9 championships as well. So... Yeah, really great sort of storied career.
And I think the highlight of his career was when the Sixers won a couple of years ago with the down, we ain't going nowhere. Full kit in front of the Opera House, no sleep, a few beers might have been consumed.
That's right.
I'm just speculating.
Allegedly.
Purely speculating.
I think Dan Christian... For the BPL, he might not be their biggest star, but he's been, I guess, one of their most consistent.
Very consistent, yeah.
Compared to some of the guys that come in and out, he plays nearly the whole season, every year. So it's been, I guess, one of the faces. When you think of Big Bash, you always see him as a consistent there.
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely big props to him in a league that's probably struggling a little bit at the moment.
He had a chat with the Great Cricket, a Reasonable Cricket podcast. You might want to check it out if you're not already familiar. And he said his role has really gone from having to bowl 4 overs and batting 4 to I bat 7 and I bowl an over here and there and just more there for that mentorship, I suppose.
The veteran kind of
a wealth of experience. 43 games for Australia as well in white ball format, and by all accounts a very good rugby league player as a youngster. So had to choose between cricket and rugby league. Given his career, I think he made the right choice.
Before Peps does, he's bumping him a little bit. I don't know. For whatever reason, you just don't sound right in my head.
I'm going down or up?
Up
now.
Up a little bit.
Down. We ain't.
That's a bit.
Going nowhere. We sweet?
Yeah.
Sure.
Look, 2 weeks since we last potted, that means double beer shout for me. Yeah, the girls' hottest was 100 was on yesterday for younger people that still listen to Triple J. Fisher came in at number 68, just missed that other number. But anyways, two girls that have really impressed in the past few weeks. Phoebe Litchfield, you might have heard the name if you're a cricket tragic. Consecutive half centuries for her to start her career, batting alongside Meg Lanning and in the same side as Elise Perry, her idols growing up. So good to see her in the runs straight away. She's only pretty young as well. And we spoke highly of Ned Brockman a few weeks ago, running the country west to east. Someone's done it north to south, and it is a lady, Ekana, I hope I'm saying that right, Murray Bartlett. 150 consecutive marathons, 5-month journey from Cape York down to Melbourne. That is the length of Australia, north to south. At least it's getting cooler, I suppose, as you go, but can only imagine running 5K up in the tropics what that feels like. Would be absolutely sweating bullets up there. And she's casually over the last 5 months made her way down the length of the East Coast. So definitely deserving of a beer there. Geez, few Aussies hitting that long distance. It's inspired me. I might try the Canberra Half Marathon this year. Little 21Ks with the boys, tick them over. Not quite, running the length of a continent, but inspirational stuff.
Yes, yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Double shout there. Let's go into our mop of the week. Monks, do you want to take this story? Because you sent it in the group, and I think the mop of the week was in need of a literal mop this week.
Yeah, quite literally. Look, to be honest, it's really only the headlines that I got out of this. But, yeah, Tennis Australia, I suppose, or whoever runs the show with Rod Laver Arena probably deserves a mop.
Arena Sabalenka. Ooh, let's go.
I can't remember which match it was, but typical Melbourne weather, sunny 1 second, absolutely pouring the next. And they had the roof open. So obviously they had to stop play. The tennis players obviously went inside to keep dry or whatever, and the court just got absolutely drenched. As soon as they got the roof closed, which apparently only takes 5 minutes, they had all of the ball boys and girls with towels drying the court on their hands and knees.
It looked quite efficient, actually. Quite a nice assembly line working their way up the court.
It did.
Interesting that it only takes 5 minutes, and we live in an era where you can jump on the Bureau of Meteorology and see anything incoming. You'd think they would have been a little bit more.
How often is that right, though?
A little bit more proactive. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you see a big fucking thing coming across, maybe you just close it. It's hot anyway.
Someone's got to be standing on that roof knowing what's going on.
Yeah, interesting.
Further that story, because the ball kids don't get paid.
They don't get paid.
Australia.
No.
Yeah.
So, like for a major tournament, they get a little bit in the US Open and Wimbledon, I believe. But here you get nothing. It's all volunteer work. So a bit of up in arms about forcing them to mop, and then also the Andy Murray game having them to be there, being a ball kid till 5 o'clock in the morning. Considering now they've got no line judges, etc. It's all automated.
Mate, we're going to talk combined bargaining agreements later for the NRL. What about the fucking ball kids? Where's the CBA for the ball kids?
Think about the kids.
Come on, minimum wage at least. At least.
Yeah,
Jeez, they're poor. They're essentially modern slaves. They're mopping down the court at 1 second, and then they're going to have to go to the Congo to rip cobalt out of the fucking mines to charge our phones and Teslas.
Build out Teslas.
And the rest of it. Jesus.
Yeah.
Surely we can do better. We can do better as a nation.
I mean, again,
Agreed.
mops. Like where
A mop.
Why
Like a literal mop.
Why were
instead
there
of
towels?
towels?
But towel's pretty effective. Like, let's be honest. Like assembly line. Like I'm looking at this now as from the business sense.
A big squeegee or
Well, we'll go back to the point I made. They've now got automated line judges. There's technology to do proper moving of water. Like you can have anything.
get the leaf blowers out.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the machine?
My favourite tool in my labouring days. Cruise around.
Exactly.
Old leaf blower.
Yeah, there's
Just
got to
blow the water somewhere else.
Than the unpaid workers with towels.
Funny. Anyways, leads us into our Australian Open discussion, because outside of that, really enjoyable few weeks of tennis. Like we said at the top of the show, probably not the biggest tennis tragics in the world, but it's that time of the year. You associate late January with the Australian Open, the hot weather, the tennis being on in prime time, whereas it's generally in the middle of the night for us for the other three Grand Slams. Let's start off with the ladies. Arena Sabalenka defeating Elena. I've heard Rybakina, I've heard Rybakina. I'm not sure what is the appropriate Kazakh pronunciation. But getting her maiden Grand Slam win last night. These two, along with Swiatek, kind of looking like the future of women's tennis. Obviously, gaping holes left there with the retirement of Serena Williams and Ash Barty in the last few years. I watched the tennis last night. Did watch it last year as well. Chose to watch that over the cricket, and it was an absolute display of women's tennis. Tell you what, Sabalenka, mate, she's just too big and too powerful. 6 foot tall, the backhand on her, the serve return. Just a little bit too strong for Rybakina in the end. A bit of an unusual tournament in that seeds 1 in Swiatek and seed 2 on Jabeur both out pretty early, so it really kind of opened it up for the rest. Sean, we're not going to make you do what we did last year and try to go through 10 of the Eastern European names. I'm struggling myself, I must say.
Yes.
But a really nice 2 weeks of ladies tennis, and it's going to be interesting moving forward. Without Williams and Barty there, to see who's going to. We might see a bit more of an even split.
Yeah, well, I think across the tournament, even in the men's game, it maybe lacked the star power that it had in the past. But like you said, I think it's a change of the guard, probably in both games. You know,
Yeah.
with Nadal going out early and Murray as well. Like you lose those guys, and you know there wasn't that many Aussies that made it very far. So for your casuals, you're like, oh, well, Djokovic is just going to win this. So
It seems like that.
he's on track to do it, but
There's a bloke that's called Stefanos Tsitsipas, who the Aussies love. The Aussie Greek community obviously froths him. He's quite funny on the mic as well. You know, he does his Aussie impersonations. I have somewhat of a feeling it will be...
it'll be a good game.
It will be a good game, but in terms of support, I feel like Serbian Australians and diehard Novak Djokovic fans versus 80-90%. I think we'll be cheering on Stefanos. Probably not the best look for Novak's dad to be wearing some pro-Putin gear in there, given the year last.
Novak struggles with a love-hate relationship with the Australian crowd anyway. So
but it used to be. It really used to be loved, didn't it? And because look, as a tennis player, he's the next level above the rest. He supposedly had a hamstring injury in that game against De Minaur, and he made very light work of him. Very light work.
I feel like people maybe think of him as the villain in the Federer and Nadal story. So
interesting.
So you can definitely see where some people come from and that kind of thing. But as a tennis player, he's an elite talent.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. His eyes will definitely be on, surpassing Nadal for career Grand Slams. I also think mentally, after Australia said, no, you're not vaccinated, you can't come into our country for 3 years, we're going to stick to our guns and these are the rules. And then this year it's completely different.
Yeah, and the PM's in the crowd watching him play.
And he's a wog, and I can say that because, big nose over here, two Z's in the surname. A wog watching two other wogs play tennis tonight. I think that a little bit of that wog mentality might be, hey, fuck are you, Australia? Not that he sounds like that at all. But I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think wogs aside, he might be thinking, well, look, you didn't let me into the country last year. I'm going to come down there and get the Australian Open this year and prove that I am the world's best tennis player. Speaking of wogs, I know where I'm going with this. Sushi Mango, I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they're doing like a Manning cast, if you will, tonight.
Okay.
They're going to call the game. It's three blokes. They've got a pretty big social media following, and they essentially take off old Italians and Greeks and do it quite well and do a better accent.
Better than you.
Better accent than I do. That's where my point was going.
Your strength is Nonna. That's your favourite.
Yeah, just saw her. She's going all right. Nonna, the goat they call her. Did mention earlier? Did we mention that Kyrgios pulled out before?
I think we did, leading into the tournament.
Yeah, knee injury, and the young bloke Carlos Alcaraz, who really lit up the tennis world last year, has got a bright future ahead of him. They were out before the tournament even started. And Medvedev, who a lot of people had playing Djokovic in this final, he
went deep last year. So
he did. He got knocked out by a bloke called Sebastian Korda. Now his old man won a Grand Slam back in the late 80s. And his sister, reasonable sort as well, plays professional golf, Nelly Korda. And they interviewed him and he said, man, I'm the worst athlete in my family. I don't even know what I'm doing. Not too bad, getting to fourth round of the Australian Open. So that was a bit of fun. Look, it's going to be hopefully an evenly contested match tonight. But from what I've seen from the Joker, you'd be pretty ballsy to bet against him tonight, you'd think.
And when let's forecast a little bit here. If he wins this one, I think that's his 15th. 15th. What am I 15th? 15th Australian? No, that doesn't sound right.
I think he's going for he's gunning for 24 total.
Total, yes.
I don't think it's 15 Australian Opens. It's fucking double digits though.
Yeah.
He's going for his 10th Australian Open, and he's 21.
21.
Yeah.
And how many is Nadal on? 23.
Great question.
So we look at this that much.
22. They're very close. They're within like one or two of each other.
Yeah.
But say he wins this one, he's probably got another 5 years in his career left. No Nadal, probably. I think Nadal's probably going to.
It's a matter of time.
This year, maybe could be his last.
It's a matter of
22
if,
for Nadal,
not when.
So he's
one behind.
behind.
So tonight he could equal.
Yeah, and then he could.
Yep.
If none of these guys kind of get to his level the next year, he could win the next 4.
In terms of career Grand Slams, it's
he can
not
finish with 30.
It's not unrealistic for him to go 8-9 clear.
Yeah. Finish with 30, and then imagine trying to chase that down in the future.
Good
Considering
luck.
they haven't really added, well, they don't add majors in that list.
No,
So
no, I don't think that's happened since the Australian Open was added about 120 years ago.
Exactly. So it's not like some sports where they add more things and it makes it easier to then chase those records as you go through in the future.
Yeah, no, fair bit of history in tennis.
Yeah, exactly. So for anyone to try and chase down what Joker's doing, and he could very easily take GOAT status and be like that for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think it's not if, it's when, and it's who. Like we're talking years and years and years in the future for anyone to chase down Novak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably not till Novak retires, and then someone's got to come along and then, have years where they do the clean sweep, where they go 4-4-4,
Boom, boom, boom,
get
boom.
them all.
Very hard to do.
Yes.
So
I think Federer only did it once.
Once, I think. Yeah.
So
So Federer's 41, Nadal's 36, Novak's 35. So reckon Novak has the longevity to probably see out a few more years.
Yeah,
over
whereas I
Nadal.
think
you look at his
struggling-
body compared to Nadal's body.
Yeah, Nadal really had to put extra size on to play the way he wanted to play, but he's also not a very big man, and he's been
that left arm.
except for the left arm.
That's the Homer Simpson episode when he becomes an arm wrestling champion.
A bit of the stranger maybe for him. So
Well, surely he's left-handed.
yeah, but basically, okay.
If you haven't followed, that's a reflection of you and not us in a good way.
Yes. But I think he's dealt with a lot more injuries, a lot more knees, knees, shoulders, etc. The lot. So, whereas I think Joker is just naturally gifted, and his body kind of fits really well for tennis players. So, I think he could do what Federer did, play to 40, and hopefully for him, win a bunch of tournaments in that process. And did you see the Aussies win the men's?
Yeah, Kubler and what's the other fella's name?
I don't remember. I just remember that. I was hoping someone remembered it. The Aussies won something in the men's on the men's doubles.
The men's doubles. Yes.
Rinky Hijikata.
Probably why I didn't remember.
Yeah, they had a good run. I think they knocked out the 2 seed and the 8 seed through their games, and kind of just got hot. The crowd got behind them, and they've ended up being doubles champions. I don't think they even were meant to play together this year. It's one of those just
They're probably pushing their singles campaigns, and both went pretty early and teamed up.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see the mixed doubles per chance?
no.
It was Brazilians mixed versus the Indian mixed. And the Indian bloke, no word of a lie, was in his mid-40s. And if you've seen the movie Beer Fest and are familiar with Barry Badranath, he'd look like Barry Badranath never joined the team again to go to to Beer Fest. He looked like he got stuck under that bridge and was giving out $15 EJs for another 10 years. I've got no idea who this bloke's name is. I was just watching him the other day, but he looks like a well-aged Barry Badranath. Tell you what, hits the ball pretty well for someone in their mid-40s to be playing mixed doubles final at the Australian Open. But kudos to Barry Badranath and a great movie, Beer Fest. Check that one out if you haven't already.
All right, before we get into that, Trent Naden of Brett Naden fame says your haircut looks good.
The wife did that one.
Yeah. Can you? I've changed my mind. Can you bump Peppy down a little bit?
Oh, here we go. 3 times. Stand back, stand forward.
No, and then maybe
take him down a peg.
So only like a bee stick, please, for down. And then can you turn my headphones down a little bit? Just a little bit. Just a touch. Thank you. That's your brother does. And
You have to spit some bars after that. It sounds like a fucking starts with an Eminem song or something,
It's mixing.
up, down, up, down.
Yeah. Are we good to start now?
Yeah. Do you want to press the button for the cricket section?
I hope it works. Yeah, it turns out Steve Smith is really fucking good at white ball cricket. Now, in the World Cup, we were discussing, was he in our best 11 for T20? I think check the tape. I might have said no. I
think we agree. I think we went with you and was like, yeah, I guess so. From recent form in T20 internationals, like, yeah, but Steve Smith, Big Bash, don't give a fuck. Throw the
Well,
bat around.
obviously, the only thing that could have happened was he listened to our
I
comments.
was going to say,
another curse.
It's
Yeah.
typical on the
Fuck
Esky
this.
curse.
Yeah,
right there.
and
Oh.
said, fuck these guys. I'm really good at white ball cricket. I might go out and score not 1, 200s in a row.
On pace for a third.
Well, he was in the mid-60s and he got like a rank fully on his sort of knee roll and missed it, and it was sort of clipping a leg stump and see you later.
And he looked like a heater yesterday before he spoon-fed the bowler as well. So, yeah.
You know, they were saying no one has ever in any major T20 competition scored 3 tons in a row. So he would have been just in absolutely uncharted waters.
Can
Been
you find
watching a bit of
rankings
the
for
bit of the tests. You know, the next series is out on Amazon. So we've been watching the first season with the wife. She's getting really into it. You know, cinematography, the way they shoot it, etc.
Bit of a
etc.
Netflix kind of thing.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah, right. I understand it now that Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, like, they have Asperger's for cricket. And I'm like, well, I've been telling you, But they're just the next level above, aren't they?
Yeah.
For their professionalism and for a bloke who's really played fuck all white ball cricket this summer, just to go out of that test setting, after a pretty successful summer from the Aussies, let's be honest, to go out there and bat the way he did and just be. It was almost like, Messi in the World Cup and Mbappe in the World Cup. Like you're just looking at athletes that are head and shoulders above other elite athletes, and you just had to sit back and take it in, didn't you?
I think a bit of that, like, yes, he's definitely a class above, but also maybe a bit of extra the freedom in the type of game. Like, for him, though, he's playing 5 games. It's not going to matter overly too much for him. It matters for the Sixers. It's not going to matter for like international kind of stand-ins or anything. It's not like an international game. He's been playing for Australia for donkey's years. Try a few things. Throw the bat around. Have some fun with it. And it worked for him. So.
In a big way.
Very happy. So I think...
Where did he finish up for runs? So he actually finished top 10 from
5
games.
From 5 games.
Average 86, striking at 175. Thanks very much. What about sixes? So I think he actually led the comp for sixes. So 25,
Yes, he did.
and Matt Short was next with 18.
Yeah.
So obscene.
Oh, crazy.
7 more sixes than anyone else, and they'd all played another 9, 10 games.
I think I saw it today. Since he's made that comment, I'm back, baby, he scored 1,200 runs at an average of like 80 and a strike rate of 75, and that might be the other way around. I'm just trying to remember it. But
well, you'd want his strike rate in white ball cricket to be over.
Yeah, but that's across like his summer. That's his summer.
Oh, so
that's
throwing the red balls in
Sorry,
there.
across all formats, he scored 1,200 runs in 12 matches, I think, as well. He's only played 12 matches. 1,200 runs, 12 matches for either an average in the 80 to 75 and a strike rate about the same, which is pretty good.
He said he found his hands. He said he's found his hands. His hands went missing, and hands have been found. His teammate Sean Abbott became the first player in the Big Bash to take 150 wickets. So congrats to him. And we already spoke about Dan Christian announcing his retirement. Now, Monks, do you have the eliminators and qualifiers and all the rest of it? So the Sixers lost last night, but it was yes, they did. They lost last night.
They played the 1 seed.
So the Scorchers, they're straight back through to another final. So Scorchers and winning Big Bashes pretty much synonymous. Sixers lose, so they go through to the Challenger, which is like a preliminary final, if you will, in a rugby league term. And tonight we have the Melbourne Renegades taking on the Brisbane Heat, who won in, I don't know, sort of dubious conditions.
Thunder
the other
got
night.
dicked.
Yeah.
It's Duckworth and
Lewis
rain
and rain and the rest of it. Uzi Khawaja. Look, it's the same thing, isn't it? That, like, these test players come back and say,
well,
I'm just head and shoulders better than anyone else.
Because I think we talked about it, that we had more hype for the Big Bash League, like on the last podcast, because the guys were playing. Now they've played the last week. I feel like they're probably the most interested last week in the Big Bash.
Indeed. And then
they're all going to fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we've probably flogged it to death, but the scheduling in cricket, it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
Like, how can you have now... So Smudge has been killing it. Uzi looked unreal for the
Warner and
heat the other night.
Marnus, we might have to be a little bit worried about.
Yeah, what was the stat? Warner's made about $5,000 a run since coming back into the Big Bash. Mm-hmm. Not bad money.
It's not bad money.
I reckon I could probably I'll take the $5,000 a run, go play Big Bash and make $0. So it's intriguing when your best cricketers in the country are playing in your premier competition. So look, well, I don't want to go down the same rabbit warren that we always do, but it just seems like from a scheduling perspective, you need to have these finals featuring your best talent.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about the competition coming up. That's only going to become more difficult as the different T20 leagues start overlapping, and these guys can pick and choose to get paid where they want.
Half those blokes, that got drafted in the inaugural Big Bash draft have now fucked off to the Emirates and to South Africa. Yep. So, I don't know, scheduling nightmare, and Big Bash cricket is more interesting when the test players are there and there's not test cricket on.
Agree.
From an old dinosaur. So just to outline what has to happen, knockout game tonight, Melbourne Renegades take on the Brisbane Heat. Winner goes through to play the Sydney Sixers, and then the winner of that will go on to face the perennially successful Perth Scorchers in the BBL 13 final.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting because these guys are all fuck off, like we said. I think they're probably playing tonight, and then they're all disappearing very shortly to go to India.
Yeah, I believe so. The final will be 4th of Feb.
Yeah.
Who do you think will be able to take it this year?
I think it'll be Sixers Scorchers final for. I think that might be the third time that it's been those two franchises, and then flip of a coin. It will be at Optus Stadium in Perth, so that gives a bit of a home ground advantage to the Scorchers. We know that they're very good in finals. On paper, you look at them; their bowling, attack is probably the best in the BBL. You saw the other night what Ashton Turner can do. He can put a team on his back and absolutely flip a game. They were behind the 8 ball against the Sixers the other night, and Ashton Turner goes, sorry, I'm one of the best middle order bats in the country, and makes 84 of 47. But yeah, I think, looking at these teams, I think the Sixers should get the job done in the Challenger, and I think another Scorchers Sixers final.
Yeah, because you got to remember that final's going to be no Steve Smith for the Sixers, and
I suppose
he's really carried them the last week.
Well, it's massive out for them, and the Scorchers don't lose much talent.
Yeah, exactly.
If any.
That's what I was thinking. The Scorchers are probably one of those teams where they average across the year with their main core order players, whereas most of the other teams
of their stars. Turner's going to be here, Berendorf's going to be here, Aaron Hardy's going to be here, so they're not going to have that impact of the Australian cricket team taking away a little bit of
Marsh
talent.
plays for them, doesn't he?
Yes.
But I think he's been hurt, so I think he's probably the biggest name for the Scorchers that's been out the longest.
I'm not really aware of time frames around him. I know AJ Ty's been killing it.
I think they said mid February for him, so which would mean he'd miss this tournament anyway.
Yeah, to be honest, again, I haven't been following it closely enough to tell you. They got young Lance Morris as well. Big raps around him. Look, on paper, they're very, very strong.
Will they lose Agar? That's probably the only one.
Yeah, I think they'll lose Ashton.
Oh, he's in the squad, so yes, they will. He'll be in India.
Cool. Bit going on over there in India. Speaking of, they've just swept New Zealand in the ODIs, and Shubman Gill has joined a pretty exclusive club. I think Rohit Sharma features 3 times in the club of blokes that have scored 200 runs in a one-day international. His 208 the other night against New Zealand is the 9th highest score of all time in ODI cricket. And the Black Caps, they were valiant. They went within 12 runs, which is pretty impressive. Batting second over there in India, 337. Michael Bracewell. You might have heard of Doug, his cousin, played a fair bit of cricket. Michael's only played a handful of games. Goes over there and scores 140 off 78 balls, nearly gets him home. And I was having a look at his house stat and ESPN cricketinfo.com. I think his dad two uncles and cousin Doug have all played first-class cricket. So pretty handy family. You wouldn't want to be first batting there on Boxing Day or Christmas.
in the backyard.
After a few beers and after, at least Nan's going to come out and you're going to, take her head off a few times. But it'd be pretty competitive, I reckon, their backyard cricket.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Game 2, bit of a walkover for the Indians. New Zealand only managing 108. Got Hardik Panjad, Mo Shami and Hardik pretty good with the ball there. Rohit Sharma, 51. And Shubman Gill, 40 not. And then India go through and make a casual 385 in Game 3. Rohit tons up again. Gill tons up again. Jacob Duffy, not exactly sure who that is. He turned up with the ball 3 for 100 off his 10 overs. Poor fella. Yeah, I would have gone for 250. So, and what's 10, 60 balls times 6, 360. That's what I would have gone for. Quick maths. And New Zealand again. Not too bad in the run chase. They fell 90 runs short. Devon Conway turned up, and the Lord Fardul Shakur was pretty good. He had the most poles in this 3-game series for the Indians with 6. Can you bring up the batting stats from that? I'd love to see how many Shubman made. Quick maths, 208 plus 112.
Plus 40.
Plus 40 odd. He must have made 360 odd.
Oh,
That's quick maths for you.
360, averaging 180, striking at 130, give or take.
Almost double anyway.
Pretty handy 3 matches there for young Shubman.
Does that... We still think he's going to be one of the openers in the Indian Test squad? Does that factor into it at all, do you think?
Does white ball form relate to red ball form? Yeah,
Does it push his chances a little bit?
I think it's going to be him and Sharma.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any different.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's different is perhaps Pujara coming into that middle order, and then you've got a bloke called Kohli who would love some test runs.
Yes.
Has redeemed himself. We had the video. Is Kohli back? Well, it seems like it in white ball cricket.
King.
But still does not have that test century for what, going on 3 years. February 9 that kicks off. So next podcast we'll be talking about it. We'll be talking about it.
We'll have the full lead in. Probably have. Well, might not have 11s by then. We'll probably be a day or two away from that.
Yeah, it depends, because I don't think we're going to podcast next weekend because I'm going to a wedding season, yes. Wedding SZN. A few blazers, bit of punching above your weight, a few cocktails, etc. I think it'll be next podcast. We're talking about the first test, which I believe is in Nagpur. Yeah. What's our thoughts, boys? Just briefly, obviously, this is off the cuff. Give us a chance. It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. I'd say yes, and I think team selections may play a bigger part than most are thinking. So I guess it's do they pick the right team for whatever the deck is once they get there?
The 2 spinners. It's going to depend on
which 2 spinners. Can
you go off spinner A and off spinner B?
Yes,
with Todd Murphy coming into the attack.
Who's your all rounder? Is he potentially a spinner option as well?
The role of Mitch Sweption. It's going to be enticing.
So it may play a bigger part in the deciding factor of the winner of this. Either that or India will just do India things and we'll struggle to keep up.
They should.
I think it'll be competitive.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, competitive. I don't have high hopes of going over there and winning the Border Gavaskar Trophy, in foreign conditions, given the way that they've been playing. Having said that, you send over blokes like Smudge and Labuschagne, who are 1 and 2 test bats in the world and can play spin reasonably well.
Yep.
You look at Uzi, he's a good player of spin. Travis Head, it's going to be a watermark series for him, I think. A real test of his ability to bat in foreign conditions. And then David Warner is the enigma of, will we get Boxing Day MCG Warner or will we get monkey on his back?
Yeah. Australian
public out with their pitchforks, Warner.
Exactly. Will he get 10 or will he get 200?
It's going to be. I can't wait. I can't wait. They fought that again. We spoke about it with the tennis. The time zone isn't too bad. It's kind of after work, knock off kind of sessions. Maybe getting a bit dreary-eyed in those third sessions, but can't wait. Yeah. Probably the most anticipated series outside of an Ashes in quite some time.
Agree.
And then we've got Ashes to talk about in the middle of the year, so it doesn't stop really for cricket fans.
It's a big year for cricket.
Sure is. All right, the old segue from cricket fans to fans of American football. Let's go.
Oh, he broke his ankles.
The Kansas City Chiefs just got past the Jacksonville Jaguars last weekend. Some pretty extenuating circumstances with MVP candidate Patrick Mahomes going down in the second quarter. Ankle?
Yeah, ankle.
Yeah, it was ankle.
High ankle sprain.
Chad Henne comes in and actually looked not too bad controlling that offense.
Yeah, solid drive. Scored a touchdown with Kels. So.
And they get home 27-20. Let's skip down to that bottom point there. The Jaguars played overs this year. I think it was nice for Trevor Lawrence to get a little bit after people were calling him a bust last year and Clemson football Jesus is not fit for the NFL and the rest of it. For him to get, his just desserts a little bit in getting as far as they did. Had over 4,000 passing yards, 25 touchdowns. Our thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think coaching kind of shows it matters here with Doug Peterson. They did the job they did. Well, they were 2-6 and made the playoffs. So they did a pretty good job turning it around there. Got the pieces they needed and kind of built their offense around it. So they will be better. Everyone's been talking about they get Calvin Ridley next year in that trade. So he'll be back. So they'll have more weapons for Lawrence and they'll be keep rolling and go down only by 7 to Kansas City in Arrowhead is a good result.
Well, because you pick any team in the AFC to go to Arrowhead and walk away with that result. Obviously, you don't go out to lose football games. No. But look, they can have their heads held high, can't they?
Yes, I agree. So they're a super young team, so they've got a good future ahead of them. They just got to keep it together and keep going with the way they've been drafting.
And then just a side note there, I've got a little play on your, I think autocorrect, but you've got the Chiefs to play in German next year. Is that a tactic to change things up? They're going to call the players, sprechen Sie da und said 1, 2, 3.
If Andy Reid could pull it off.
He looks like he could be a big German, full of Bratwurst and Bavarian beers.
That's what he said he was most looking forward about going to Germany was
the food.
The food. So
Andreas Riedenheim.
Yeah, very, very Andy Reid of him. So that was the news from last week. They are one of the 4 or 5 international games next year, and Chiefs were one of the like big name clubs. Playoff team.
Munich or Berlin? Do we know?
Oh, don't know.
I'm gonna. Without knowing the facts, I'm going to say Munich because they've got that Bayern Munich stadium, state of the art facilities. And it speaks volumes to where the NFL is at. We've got NBA ads here, pretty well versed. Is the Australian public with what's going on in the NBA? Will the NFL sort of follow suit and be a really internationally renowned sport?
Yeah, well, there was chat during the week about New South Wales government trying to get an NFL game down here.
Number 1, 2, and 3 tickets sold here.
Definitely. So,
probably go 10 grand a pop though.
We'll see. They had college games here, etc. But they get I don't think they've been here since the Broncos came down in like 96 or 97. Yeah. So John Elway is quarterback at that time. So it's been a while. But the whole point, I guess, is New South Wales government trying to fight with the Melbourne, Victoria. Queensland's been coming back up, but the fighting of who's the sporting capital of Australia and getting an NFL game helps sell that to the masses. But we'll see.
Speaking of states fighting each other, also a bit of news that the states are looking to get the UFC down here as well.
Yes, because they've only been to Perth, I believe.
No, they did one in
Adelaide,
Melbourne. Adelaide.
I think.
So they did
Rousey
they did the Melbourne. Yeah, so I think as part of that announcement on the NFL game as well, they wanted to host. New South Wales wanted to host a UFC pay-per-view because yes, you are right. Melbourne had Rousey, and then Perth I think's had 3.
Yeah, the Holly Holm
the fight night.
knockout of Rousey was at Melbourne, wasn't it?
Correct.
I think so. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they've had heaps of fight nights all over the country. There's been a couple in Queensland. There's been a couple in New Zealand, but the actual pay-per-view, like a main event. There's only been 4, I'd say, besides the one that's coming up in 2 weeks.
Let's go. Bills Bengals, bit of an upset here. You can't give the Bengals this underdog tag because they love it. They love it. Joe Burrow going out there in atrocious conditions in Buffalo. You thought maybe, the whole DeMar Hamlin kind of stuff would have
in the stadium,
yeah,
etc.
Do you see any of the look? This is just internet being internet kind of stuff. Body double, apparently, according to the internet, of DeMar Hamlin. That's why he had his face covered. He might have also had his face covered because it was fucking cold.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, they love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah, conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this game?
They played bad. Bills played bad. But I think the main thing, and I think we've been saying it, is they lack run game. They can't, if they've got nothing to, especially in the snow, if Josh Allen's having a bad night, which he did in this case.
Threw one pick.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the ball to Diggs.
Yeah, couldn't get the ball to Diggs. Couldn't kind of get momentum. Like there's not an extra, person there. Let's use the run game to support that. Whereas you look at what the Bengals did and look at what Joe Mixon did, they have that dude. You look at where nearly basically everyone else that's playing in the conference games, they have that extra support through the run game. So, and the Bills kind of really rely on Allen to do it all, including that run game. And I think that's what they've been lacking. We've been saying that for years. Well, that was kind of their preview. If one thing they need to fix is probably that, get some extra support just to take a little bit of pressure off Allen. But we'll have to see what happens. Diggs was not real happy after that, but I think he was more not happy with the way they played because they knew they'd played badly.
Yeah, and I think he said that he kind of owned it on Twitter, just saying, look, that was an emotional reaction to our performance in the game.
And a shit product out
exactly.
there.
It was less so about having the shits with his teammates and more so about just being emotionally invested in trying to get to a Super Bowl. So, competitors compete. And look, it may have come across as a little bit, diva-esque from the outside. But I think if you got into Stephon Diggs' head, it's probably just reeks of passion more than anything.
Yeah.
It was interesting that it happened within the same 24 hours, going back to the tennis chat, as Jessica Pegula.
You wish.
Pegula. Yeah, wouldn't mind.
$1 billion.
Yeah, she's the third seed in this one and is the daughter of the couple that owns the Buffalo Bills. So not a great 24 hours for them. I suppose they might have some Benjamins that they can wipe their tears with and blow their noses with. But and just going back to the Bills, what do we reckon? There's been a few years where Super Bowl champ has kind of been thrown around there. Should they be disappointed with bowing out in this game at home?
I'd say so. They're still playing against a red hot Bengals team, but they're very much in their window. But I think go back to that point. The thing they kind of lack is that run game.
Pounding the rock.
You look at this round of divisional games, not a single quarterback threw over 300 yards. So it kind of goes that you need your Robin to your Batman, essentially. All the teams that won with that quarterback, you're not relying on it because you talk about playoff football, gets a bit cooler, need good defense, need the run game to support it, and have the quarterback talent to take you deep. And the Bills just lack that one piece. They've got everything else.
Is that an offensive line thing as well? Being able to run block as opposed to protecting Allen because he's very good at escaping the pocket.
Also true. And from what I understand, the trenches were very much dominated by the Bengals.
Oh,
in this
yeah.
one. So, it adds to it. So, yes, if you get some movement in the trenches, then definitely you will have a good day. And speaking of really good trenches, that Eagles team, that offensive line is good.
Both sides, that defensive line,
Yeah,
they shut down Danny Dimes and Saquon, who probably looked a little bit better throughout the season than perhaps that team suggested. You were cautious of an Eagles choke. I'm cautious this week of an Eagles choke.
Well, I was thinking with it's the first game back for Hurts, what they're going to kind of do. Choking against the Giants team would make a lot of sense. But then the way Hurts played, I'm less worried about a choke this week. I think it'll be more of a high competitive, very close football game because I think Jalen's just hit that MVP kind of level. If he
Yeah.
hadn't have been hurt, I think he would have shit the MVP in. But
Yep.
since he missed a couple of games, I think Mahomes would probably get it.
We'll talk. Let's
but we'll get there.
analyse that in a second. We talk about being able to pound the football and what Buffalo wasn't able to do.
Mm-hmm.
This Philadelphia team can do it, and not big name running back like Miles Sanders isn't bad, but he's let a few people down, I reckon, in their fantasy leagues over the time. If you've got Kenneth Gainwell out there, going for $110 and a touchdown, that speaks volumes to how good your fucking offensive line is.
Exactly. And they've got a good defense in the same thing, and Hurts is playing the best football he's played in his career. So Eagles primed for a Super Bowl, definitely.
They will take on the 49ers, who got through the Dallas Cowboys in kind of a defensive battle. That 49ers defense is nasty. 2 picks, shut down the run against the Cowboys team, who had essentially the best 1-2 punch in running the football in the NFL this year. What were our thoughts on this one?
I think I made some of those comments about they might have a Dak problem, and I was a little bit less worried after the previous week in the playoffs. Dak played really well after playing terrible against Washington. But, he threw probably 2 kind of unnecessary picks here in good field position, which didn't really hurt them points-wise.
Yeah.
Cowboys D also did a really good job in this. Missing a whole bunch of extra points probably didn't help their chances.
Oh, Brett Maher.
Yeah, had a
Is that a JFK meme getting around?
Yeah. He missed 5, and then I think in this one he had the
2, I think.
He had a
Missed a couple.
One blocked. Yeah,
it
one.
was blocked, but it was missing. Like he could see it was shanked. It wasn't going to go over. And I think he missed another one, and then he did hit the field goal late for to say right the ship a little bit. But the Cowboys will be interesting to see what they do. They did lose Tony Pollard to a hip drop tackle, so the hip drop tackle is now in chats in the NFL.
I can't wait to talk about that all NRL season again.
Yeah. Well, the NFL, the same thing, looking at it for player safety, is that something we can remove, or, how do we officiate it? Time will tell. But, yeah, the 49ers on the other side, their defense looks good. Maybe didn't have the best output on offense in this one, but Cowboys, I think, defensively also very good. So it turned into what we thought it would be, a bit of a close competitive battle, but the turnover margin going in the favour of the 49ers might have been the difference.
Do you think we keep asking the same question, but we may as well keep going? Do you think the 49ers can win a Super Bowl with Mr. Irrelevant/relevant at the helm, considering the rest of their talent on the defensive side of the ball and their offensive weapons?
I think so, but we maybe save that for Rookie of the Year chat.
I like it.
Because if you look at the numbers, I wouldn't say they can't. And, I think that the comment there, it's been circulating that the 49ers are very much keen to maybe keep Purdy as the starter next season, and which would mean they
Trade Lance on the market.
Trade Lance after they gave up 3 picks to get him in the first place. So, yeah, it's I'd say maybe more for Coach of the Year candidates, Kyle Shanahan. He's kind of with the job he's done with 3 different quarterbacks and getting a young guy like Purdy involved and getting him ready to win, to be undefeated at this point. He's won 7 straight.
Yeah, hasn't lost, has he?
Yeah, hasn't lost. Just kind of goes to it. And, we get into scouting and the reason he went last overall, a little bit too small, wrong school, etc. But you can't deny the talent and the way he's been playing. He's been playing very well and showing maturity beyond his years, essentially.
Yeah, I think I saw a little, social media comment from him saying when he went to big schools, Alabama and the like, and spoke with their scouting programs. It was, you're not big enough, you don't have the arm talent, you don't have the accuracy, and he just goes to Iowa State and gets thrown a bone by the 49ers to go be their 3rd string quarterback, and it's all kind of fallen into his hands. Look, it's early, but it's kind of reminiscent of a bloke called TB12.
Well, it's also very interesting because when Hurts was at Oklahoma, I think it was. He and Purdy played like in a massive game where they went back and forth and scored like 50 plus points.
Let's talk, because you were looking that up now, weren't you?
But if you watch the highlights in that game, you can see for both of them, you can see what they're doing on a week-to-week basis now in the NFL. So it's, yes, you probably knocked Purdy in the scouting report for, like you said, his size, and maybe he's not prototypical in that mold for a quarterback. But you can
look at those numbers.
You
in
can
this
see
game.
the arm talent. So this game was crazy. So
We're talking about 2019 Iowa State Cyclones taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. These are the numbers. Jalen Hurts had a pretty good game, 273 yards passing the ball, 3 touchdowns, 1 intercept. Not bad, good size. And then you look at Brock Purdy, 282 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 intercepts. They go on to lose this game by a point, I believe. Was it 42-41?
Yeah, there you go,
42-41. A remarkable game there of college
Bryce
football.
Hall played in this as well.
Bryce Hall from the Jets. Hopefully his ACL rehab is going well. And look at that with the legs as well. Brock Purdy, 55 on the ground and a touchdown.
Hurts had 68.
68. Kenny Brooks.
CeeDee
Ramondre Stevenson, CeeDee Lamb, Trey Sermon. Look at that talent on that Sooners team. Unbelievable. It's weird how it works out. You know, they've faced each other not that long ago in a big college football game, and now they're on the biggest stage. Let's talk about this game, this 49ers Eagles game. Did you know it's the 2 youngest quarterbacks ever to face off in a championship game?
Well,
Jalen Hurts is 24, Brock Purdy is 23.
There was no quarterback over 30 in the playoffs in the last round.
Yeah.
So it's
changing of the guard.
again. Yes,
We've been kind of talking about it all year, but everyone bought in the 1990s. In last week and this week they're getting even younger. Obviously, Hurts and Purdy 24, 23. Joe Burrow and Patty Mahomes aren't.
I think it's
either.
besides Mahomes because he's been paid. I think that's kind of the direction teams kind of go in is you get your first round pick, you get your 5 years on a rookie deal, you get all your talent, try to make a run in the Super Bowl while you've got that quarterback on a cheaper deal versus. You know, the 4 highest paid quarterbacks didn't even make the playoffs this year. You can kind of see that maybe that's the way teams are trying to build.
Is one of them hanging up over my left shoulder?
Yes, one of them is.
Fuck you, Detroit.
But it's also very hard. Like, if you get that guy, if you get your Patty Mahomes, that's why you give him
I suppose
a 10-year deal for 100 mil. So
very hit and miss. You're investing a lot in a very young quarterback, I suppose.
It's a risky strategy. But
It is.
We'll have to see if it pays.
Let's see if it pays off cutting.
Yeah.
Good movie. What do we think about this? It's the number 1 offense in the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the number 1 defense in the San Francisco 49ers.
Are they playing this?
It's in Philly,
it is Philly, okay.
And I think the Eagles were about $1.70 last time I checked.
Yes. I don't know. It's a coin toss. We've got to that point of the year where both these teams are playing really, really well. Maybe slight edge of defense to the 49ers. Maybe slight edge, quarterback to the... Well, you probably say quarterback to the Eagles.
Definitely, yeah. MVP.
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly.
But, if you go offensive line, they're pretty comparable. Trent Williams has been playing elite for the 49ers, but on the other side of the Eagles have... across the board are really, really good. So it'll be a good battle, I think, in the trenches. Like it's at that point, it's a close. The two best teams in the NFC, I reckon, here. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it's like their previous game, high scoring, lots of points, a lot of fun, and we'll see what happens.
I don't see it being 42-41.
It's probably like 15-12.
Yeah, I'm going to lay that one out there. Here's one for you. Does running back talent come into it? You've got CMC and Elijah Mitchell taking on Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. If it's hard to split and it's flip a coin,
well, I
does
think
that come into it? Does the fact that George Kittle is on one side of the ball and
maybe, but
Dallas got it? Has he even been playing?
He's back. But then I'd say, AJ Brown, I'd probably take over.
Receiver,
as a receiver.
Devonta
Smith has had a really good year, actually.
Yeah.
He's been a bit under the radar. He's been really good. that running, like in that running game, you got to remember Hurts is you got to involve that in the option, which you get a bit more out of the legs for Hurts than you do out of Purdy. So again, like you can find little differences and things like that, but overall the teams are pretty comparable. And,
it's hard one.
in elite talent. So just tune in and watch an excellent football game. Is that the first game tomorrow or the second game?
First game. Yeah, purposely done it like that. So, let it rain, baby. Let it rain. Hopefully be on the couch watching this one in about 14 hours. Yeah. I'm gonna go bold prediction. I think the 49ers on the back of their defense get it done.
Could do.
Yeah, I think so. We've been talking weeks on defenses, especially in playoffs, is what gets you there. Like, I'm going back to Tampa Bay Cowboys several weeks ago. I said I was scared because of the Cowboys defense. Cowboys up against the 49ers the other week. Again, same thing. 49ers defense. Just
did you see NFL Films released a whole bunch of Tom Brady sideline footage trying to bump up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they essentially were all a dead horse. Like they just they weren't vibing with it. They, for whatever reason, they just weren't in that game mentally. And Tom did everything he could to try and lift them, and they just wouldn't respond. So it was quite an interesting take for that, and probably speaks to that Brady won't be back at Tampa next year if he does come back. For me, I've leaned more towards the Eagles winning, but I think Mr. Irrelevance winning a Super Bowl is elite script writing.
Oh, could you imagine? Could you imagine?
So I'd be happy to see that as well. So I think it's a good football game. Let's just tune in and enjoy.
It will be a good football game.
I did see another funny little headline this week. So you guys remember when Philly won the Super Bowl against said Tom Brady back when he was at the Patriots?
I think they even did that during the playoff games. So or they are doing it.
We won the Super Bowl. Let's fuck up our city. Seemed to be the sentiment.
Yeah.
Apparently,
climb everything.
Let's burn this motherfucker down.
Well, before we finish, did you see some 49ers fans put 49ers gear on the Rocky statue? So, so I don't know whether that's a bit too much, and that'll fire the Philadelphia team up a little bit. But
well, they've got to get their police on board because apparently they were going up. Grease me up, woman! They were greasing up the street lights. They couldn't climb up. Middle of winter, you wouldn't think there'd be that much traction already available. On
they did it when they were playing the playoffs last year or the year before as well, and it didn't work. Like, it still didn't matter.
Yeah, what do they apply? What is there? Is there like a
industrial grease? Yeah,
Lunch Lady Doris. As per Lunch Lady Doris and groundskeeper Willie.
And it didn't work. Like, they still were able to, like, with great effort, but you've greased it up for them. It's like it's now a challenge. It wasn't easy. Now it's a challenge. So I'm going to do it.
After the 50th person's tried to climb,
you want to be the one.
All the grease is gone.
Yeah. How many cops and how much funding has gone to greasing up this?
Plenty, probably plenty.
The light posts. Different world, isn't it?
It's probably cheaper than trying to repair them all. So.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's true.
Grease me up.
Yeah.
Even if it did work, imagine like what would be stuck to those light posts like a month later. All the rubbish.
And from a legality point of view, if you've had a few Bud Lights and
you slip off.
and you go into the Super Bowl and you decide to climb a light post, but it's been greased up by Lunch Lady Doris, Philadelphia PD, and you slip down said light post and maybe crack your skull and never woke up.
Yeah.
Does your family have grounds or? I don't know. Look,
interesting.
Yeah, US police brutality. Probably don't want to go down that path.
No, not after this week, bro.
No, or any. Yeah. Looking forward. Jokes aside, looking forward to this game. You love seeing an elite offense taking on an elite defense. Time would suggest that defense wins championships, but can't wait to watch this one.
No.
Yep. Well, it's interesting because I'd say of the four remaining teams, the two best defenses in that four are on the NFC side. So,
So
I was going to say,
you'd say maybe
the Eagles' defense is no slouch. Like,
I
agree. And whereas maybe you'd say the offenses on the other side slightly better, or comparable.
Or comparable.
You're calling the Eagles a more well-rounded team on both sides of the ball.
Yes. That's probably the caveat. Whereas you've probably got the more better elite quarterback talent on the AFC side. And that's maybe where we switch over with the Bengals taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Joe Burrow taking on Paddy Mahomes at Barrowhead Stadium, supposedly.
Barrowhead, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, has the wood over him. Bengals have beaten the Chiefs in their last 3 outings.
Did you see the Cincinnati mayor?
Nah.
During the week, he was saying that they need to ask Joey Burrow to take a paternity test to see if he's Paddy Mahomes' father.
The mayor said that.
Yes, the mayor said that, like in a public address. So they're a bit of fire.
Yeah, a bit of bands.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see the teams that have done the banter. Will they be on the bad
They're
ends?
talking a very big game.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see because I think it was Chris Jones signed off his press conference during the week saying we'll see you at Barrowhead Stadium. So like they've noticed it and they're like, hey, we're coming. So it's going to be a good football game.
And he walks the walk as well as talking the talk. I believe I saw the highest rated player in this AFC Championship game.
He's just unlucky that there's a dude called Aaron Donald that plays in the NFL because otherwise, he'd be that guy.
Yeah.
So
Him.
he'd be him. Yes.
Fuck, we're getting lazy in the English language. You can just say he, him.
That's it. I think that's more talking to our vocabulary than anything else, though.
Well,
short form content, bro. That's where it's at.
yeah, short form content.
It'll be all emojis in the future.
Pop culture. Yeah, we might develop some kind of hieroglyphic that's just got
we're going backwards, bro.
It's just got poo emoji, eggplant emoji, laughing
the Egyptians had it all
emoji,
figured
fire
out, bro.
emoji.
Yeah, the Egyptians had it figured out. I don't know why we changed.
That's it. They built the pyramids.
Well, that's true.
Did they?
That's true. We're going to build pyramids, and all I've sent to you is eggplant, water, fire. All right, boys. We might have 2 of the best offenses in the league going up against it here. Is the difference going to be the defensive side of the ball? Is that our thinking here, or is it just going to be, Paddy Mahomes having to reclaim that Arrowhead Stadium, dropping the B and making it Arrowhead Stadium? What are our thoughts here?
It'd be interesting because if I look at, I'd give the wide receiver talent to Bengals.
Yep, agree.
And that's, it really helps out Burrow there. Mixon's been playing elite. On the other side of the ball, like Elijah Apple needs a big game. Everyone's expecting him to get torched again, but
he was yapping a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, and what he did in the Super Bowl, of course, was the Apple getting roasted essentially. But then again, I've said it recently. I don't think Kansas City maybe has that elite kind of comparable wide receiver talent. They've got a dude called Kelsey who's better than everyone else.
Yeah, so and so far ahead at his position, it's like, does that cancel out the fact that the Bengals arguably have the best wide receiver room in the league?
Yeah, I think so. Like, Hayden Hurst is no slouch, but
he played well last weekend, didn't he?
He's not Kels at all. So the defensive for Kansas City has been good. Maybe they lack elite talent at the corner position, but then I'd say the same for the Bengals. Both their secondaries are maybe a slightly bit suspect, but I think just win the game, score the most points. But in this, I think it's
thanks, John Madden.
Yeah,
respectfully.
I think it's probably might come down to who has the most possessions, the last possession, and can score that last point because. Yeah, it's probably going to be a 30-plus game or a 40-40 kind of game. I think that's kind of what you could expect here in Arrowhead. Might depend on the weather again.
Yeah.
Of course, being in Arrowhead at this time of year. But if they get a clear game, I think big points. That's what I feel.
Smash the overs. I think, realistically, we're more likely to see it in this one.
Yeah. What was can you find, James, the result of last year's AFC Championship game?
It was 3 points. I feel like it was 3 points off the back of my head. Trying to work back 12 months ago. It's hard to remember what I had for breakfast, to be honest. But going back, I feel like the Bengals won by 3 points. Is my gut feel. I think this one gets decided by whoever turns the ball over less. And obviously that's a little bit of a cop-out when it comes to discussing American football. But I just think with the talent on both sides of the football in this one, I think it may come down to who throws that critical pick or who coughs one up.
That's it. 27-24.
3 points.
3 points.
It's always a safe bet, isn't it? Player awards. Should we talk player awards? Do you want to do some picks? You want to do some picks?
I'm going Bengals.
Gun to your head.
Yeah, I like the Bengals.
I'm going to go Chiefs. I know that the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs the last 3 times. I think Arrowhead Stadium goes back to Arrowhead. But yeah, it's 2 evenly matched teams in both championship games, and hopefully for the neutral, none of our teams here, just see some good games of football.
No, definitely.
Let's go into some player awards. We've got a few blokes here in the comments. Maybe after we discuss the NFL, we might just briefly chat a bit of cricket. Yeah, but we've got upcoming player awards. The MVP for what I've seen is essentially a 2-horse race. We've sort of discussed, the 2 big names who will be playing tomorrow in Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. The other nominations are Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, and Joe Burrow. So we've got 4 quarterbacks and a receiver. I think it's a 2-horse race. I think the odds reflect that.
Yeah, I think statistically Mahomes was better than all the others, and Jalen was probably the only one that could have taken that spot with his extra, 10 touchdowns on the ground. So I think if Jalen hadn't got hurt, it would be him. So, yeah. That was my thoughts.
So you think Mahomes?
I think Mahomes
edges out Hurts?
I think with the All Pro voting that they showed a couple of weeks ago, that it's kind of pretty clear that Mahomes would be the favourite there. So I think it's Mahomes.
I'm going to go devil's advocate. I love Patrick Mahomes. I think he does things that other football players can't do, throwing the ball.
Yep.
I think you have to consider the fact that if you get within the 5, Jalen Hurts may as well be Derrick Henry because no one could stop him, on whether it be rolling out or whether it be on the QB sneak. I think it is essentially a coin flip. Maybe that flip is weighted a little bit more in the Mahomes camp, but I'd love to see Jalen Hurts and just saying shut the fuck up to all the people that said, you can do it at Oklahoma, but you won't be able to do it at the NFL. You don't have the accuracy. Shitting on his accuracy. Yeah, you're a running back. Oh yeah, you can squat 650 pounds.
Yeah.
Good on you. You're not going to be a pro. You're not going to be a pro quarterback. And him just saying a big, how's this MVP look? Bitches to them, but yeah, I think it's a 2-horse race. Obviously, Allen's had a great year. Disappointing for the Bills. Joe Burrow could be an outsider. Pretty rare for a receiver to win it. Justin Jefferson, I think nearly broke some records this year.
I think Justin Jefferson will win that Offensive Player of the Year.
I also agree.
Yeah, it makes too much sense there. Defensive Player of the Year, I think.
Well, let's roll quickly into that offensive. So we've got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes.
So if you rule the other 2 out because they're in the MVP conversation,
do you give it to the other one? Because they do that. I did a bit of research this week.
Really?
I did a bit of research. My kind of thinking was, Offensive Player of the Year generally goes to a running back or a receiver.
Yeah, the dude that were topped that level but couldn't win an MVP because it said quarterback. Yeah.
Other, in the 50 years of existence of Offensive Player of the Year, 20 quarterbacks have won it. So 2 out of 5 times it's a quarterback, and most other times it tends to be a running back. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that, say, Mahomes wins MVP and Hurts wins Offensive Player of the Year or vice versa.
Did Cooper get it last year?
Cooper did get it last year, and recency bias suggests that it's a non-quarterback that picks it up.
I feel just because of how close Jefferson got to that all-time yardage record, I think it's going to be Jefferson.
I agree.
Makes sense.
And then I think it's, as aforementioned, coin flip between Hurts and Mahomes.
Yep.
Monks, anything to add there?
No, not really. I think you're right. Hurts obviously running the ball, that impactful offensive player. If he doesn't get MVP, then that's obviously the best argument for him. I'm not a real quarterback there. Just change that QB to an RB. Tyreek Hill obviously has had a standout year as well.
You said it
one season removed from Mahomes, showing that he is that top tier receiver as well. It's not Mahomes and what he can do. So
true.
But
I'm not sure. I wasn't paying attention well enough to you before.
You never do.
Because you said the 20 quarterbacks have won this award. Did you say how many was quarterback MVP, quarterback offensive?
I think a lot of them are double ups.
Okay.
Yeah. Which would
lead, which would lead to that whole, probably MVP for Mahomes and Hurts could get the offensive. But I just feel like Jefferson may be a bit hard done by for his season he had there.
DPO, why? Why do they pick 3 nominees and not 5 for this? Does anyone know?
Usually, I think most of the others are 3 as well. Like the rookies, and that was 3. It might be just what they narrowed it down to.
Okay.
So we've got guys that might have got votes, they've just narrowed it down for them, for who will get the rest.
We got Nick Bosa, defensive end, 49ers. Chris
Exactly.
Jones, who we're just talking about, defensive tackle for the Chiefs. And Micah Parsons. One has to remember that he's in his second year in the pros. I think
for rookie of the year.
Well, Bosa's what, 4?
Not
that many
into it.
either,
Not too many into it. Led the league in sacks. From what I've seen, I think Bosa is favourite.
Yeah, I think Bosa will win it as well. Which are unlucky for Chris Jones. He's had an elite year.
Both of them really.
Yeah. If you go on off the stats, if he's got the most sacks and got more than Parsons, so that's probably why he'll get chose. So I think Nick's a good choice there.
Who else would you be expecting in that list outside of those top 3?
That's a great question. Has anyone? No one's really shined at middle linebacker. Has anyone shined at corner?
Yeah, well,
What about Sauce Gardner in his first year?
Yeah, but I think
A touch off.
yes. I'd say the cornerbacks that have won this award usually had to get like 10 picks in the year.
Yeah, it's not shut down kind of.
Yeah, it's
Champ Bailey years where no one looked at my side of the field kind of thing.
Yes.
Although, did he win this award?
He did win this award and did get 10 picks that year. So that's how I know. And I'm pretty sure.
And then the years after, people stopped throwing the Champ Bailey side.
Yeah, I think Santa Samuel first. I think he got 10 as well and got a defensive player of the year. But that's kind of, you got to get turnovers and affect the game in a more way than just not get anything thrown at you. Because again, it's statistics.
I suppose that's it. Like, it's very heavily driven sort of by like how many sacks you get, or
and same for middle linebackers. Like, it doesn't matter if you get 200 tackles. You got to get 200 tackles, 5 picks, and 5 sacks. Like, you got to have a complete game, and 5 like fumble recoveries. Like, you need more of a complete game. Whereas it's, I guess, for the defensive end guys, the guys that affect the game with sacks, that's how you get involved in that spot. So,
and for picks, there was no standout. So Minka Fitzpatrick, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Justin Simmons, and Tariq Woolen all split it with 6. So you'd think probably no one in the secondary puts their hand up.
No, I don't think anyone will get it in the secondary.
Moving on, Dan, what else have we got? Rookie of the year? And coach of the year?
Find that.
Brock Purdy, Kenneth Walker, Garrett Wilson. Discuss Chris Olave, stiff, perhaps?
Perhaps, yeah. Statistically, was behind Wilson in all categories, so you can see that reason. I think Olave started the year really well and then kind of had a slower back half, whereas I think Wilson kind of had a better middle section of the year and was a bit slow towards the end of that, but still did statistically well. Walker was probably, once he stole the job there at Seahawks, got 1,000 yards, was pretty good. What I find interesting, and Brock Purdy's in here, of course, because he's had the 7 wins now. If you look at his numbers, they're almost identical to what Jalen Hurts has done in their last 7 starts.
Which is nuts.
Which is nuts, and then also for a quarterback to win offensive rookie of the year after 7 starts, I think he might actually do it.
I think so too.
Because if I look at Wilson's numbers, if you look at Justin Jefferson's rookie year, where he didn't win the award, he had like 400 more receiving yards. So I think it's maybe a bit of a down year for offensive rookie, which makes me think that maybe could lead to Purdy actually winning this award.
Here's one for you. Numbers aside, games played aside, of those 3 players, who has been the most integral to their team's success?
Oh, Purdy, of course.
I think that's the way.
If he steps in and they
imagine he wins the Super Bowl this year and he didn't win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. If he come in and they won none of those games, then the 49ers aren't playing in the playoffs. So he had to do his job, and he's done an excellent job at that.
And that's what a quarterback's number one job is.
Yeah, they've played.
You can talk about yards, you can talk about ratings, you can talk about touchdowns to intercept ratio, but your number one job is to win football games.
And statistically, they have been better with him than they had with the other 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
they're scoring 10 more points a game on average than they were beforehand. So they've gone from a 25 to a 35-point average, which is crazy to think about when you've got a rookie quarterback who was picked last in the draft. So
Mr. Relevant.
Yeah, Mr. Relevant.
Let's go.
I think it's an excellent story. I think that's probably the way they sell it. And I just don't think Walker and Wilson, compared to previous years of rookie winners, have statistically, those clear-cut kind of numbers that they did. So that's what kind of makes me lead that, yes, Purdy could probably sneak in here and steal this one.
Monks, you got some Purdy versus Brady comparisons? I imagine early on it's all Brock Purdy.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Tom Brady's first,
different eras,
his
bro.
first season, very different. But
hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, Tom Brady played with the dinosaurs, bro. Is that all?
With us.
yeah, but yeah, very quick. Brock Purdy's definitely done a lot better. Has had a lot better start to Tom Brady in his first year where he started more games. And more games than sitting on the bench. So yeah.
Defensive Rookie of the Year, there is 3. Sauce Gardner, who we spoke briefly about, Aiden Hutchinson, and Tariq Woolen, who was a 5th-round pick, I believe, for the Seahawks. We just spoke about him getting 6 picks this year. Yep. I think all credit to Tariq Woolen and what he's been able to achieve this year. I believe this is probably a 2-horse race between Sauce and Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, but I think Woolen was probably what's going to hurt Sauce's candidacy in this. Because Sauce didn't, impact the game as much there with the turnovers.
In terms of the numbers, yeah.
Yes, he had a pretty good year coverage-wise. Some of the hardcores that watch that might be question how much PI he got away with as well as part of that process. But I think what Aiden Hutchinson's did with the Lions, I think he might end up winning.
Yeah, I think so too. He probably was the most ready to play NFL defensive end that I can remember in quite some time.
It's interesting. You look at his numbers, he almost had about double statistic-wise than what Walker did, who went 1. So so he's played really well in that space. I think Walker actually played better in the playoffs when they got there. But, yeah.
Lions weren't in the playoffs.
No, I meant for the Jags.
I'm with you.
Yeah, so when
it's just salty Packers fan here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they kicked you out. So, but, I think the Lions... Walker's kind of back last few games then leading into the playoffs. He played a lot better than he had as a early rookie throughout the season, whereas Aiden Hutchinson kind of just came in as that dude and just had a good year all around. And they've kind of built around that blue collar, that kind of style that he plays and the Lions play. And
Hard knocks, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of pushed them into the point where they almost could have made the playoffs.
Comeback Player of the Year is interesting because all these guys have had some sort of season and all kind of extenuating circumstances differ. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Geno Smith. Thoughts?
I think Christian McCaffrey's probably the outsider on this one. Not playing as many games.
But you look at sheer numbers, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
True.
But also, if you want to talk sheer numbers, guess who now owns the most passing yards in a Seahawks jersey in a single season?
Yeah.
It's not Russell Wilson.
No.
It's Geno fucking Smith.
Yeah. He's done surprisingly well. Like Saquon
Well, you talk about
been
teams,
great.
And team success as well. Like Saquon coming back and no one expected this Giants team to do anything. And, then they go to the last 8 teams in the NFL.
I agree. And I think the way... If you go for who was the most valuable to their team success in that, I think Saquon really carried a lot of that Giants team for a lot of the year and really was a big difference for them and statistically did a really, really good job. Christian McCaffrey left the Panthers and the Panthers got better, which has been interesting.
I don't know if that's more CMC because the 49ers got better with CMC.
I think it was probably more of a whole greener pastures for everyone involved in that. But, it's very hard to go past the quarterback in this. But of those, 3, 2 of them have gone a little bit further playoff-wise. So I'm leaning more towards Saquon. I think in the New York market, it makes more sense.
I'm going to go Geno. Believe in Geno.
I'll go Geno. I think where the Seahawks could have ended up compared to where they did end up, they've done very well this season. Again, Giants obviously played overs as well, but Danny Dimes had a great season as well. Yeah. Again, probably due to Barkley being able to open up their playbook a little bit more. But yeah, again, that quarterback bias as well, I suppose.
Let's wrap up our chat about player awards. With Coach of the Year. Not really a player, but anyways. We've got Brian DeBoll from the Giants, Sean McDermott, Bills, Doug Peterson, Jags, Kyle Shanahan, 49ers, Nick Sirianni, Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to eliminate the first two, and I think it's between the last three. And I think Doug Peterson probably will miss out, and I think it'll be between the two guys playing off in the conference.
Tomorrow, yeah, for the NFC. I agree. I think it's a coin flip between these guys. I'm going to go Nick Sirianni on basis of expectation at the start of the year. I don't think anyone really saw the Eagles going this well.
Maybe not this far. I think it was a prove-it year for them because they kind of like, hey, we've gone out and got everything we can to make Jalen as good as he needs to be. And he's, as part of that process over there as the coach, getting them into the right space they need to. Get the most out of Hurts. I think they've kind of achieved that. So I can definitely see it. But then the same story on the other side of the ball on the other team. Kyle Shanahan's done an excellent job with Brock Purdy, as we've mentioned. So, like I said, coin toss. I think it'll be between those two.
Marks, anything to add?
No, not really. I pretty much agree with all of that. Again, the turnaround for the Jags this season has been phenomenal.
Doug Peterson probably has a shout, I think.
Yeah, I think Peterson over the other two.
Yeah, definitely.
My thoughts.
But 49ers and Eagles. Again, you're talking about the top offense, top defense in the leagues there. Can't go past that.
So in final news, and leave that there because not a huge amount of news on coaching fronts. Frank Reich has been hired by the Panthers, who also was their first quarterback in the franchise history through the first touchdown for them. So I
didn't know that.
A bit of coming home there for Frank.
That's cool.
So he's looking to put his staff together. So the Panthers are first off. D'Amico Ryans, who I think will probably win that Assistant Coach of the Year award, looks like he'll be the favourite for both the Texans and the Broncos job, if you believe reports currently. Looking likely he might take that Houston job. Of course, having played for the Texans and his wife's family's essentially from there. He met his wife in Texas, out in Texas. So, in Houston, sorry. So I think he'll most likely pick Houston out of that option.
Imagine taking that change, 49ers to Texans.
Yeah. But he'll be a head coach though.
Of course. And he's got the personal investment in the rest of it.
Exactly. And they've got, I think, 4 picks in the top 40, so or the top 50, something like that. So they can get a whole bunch of young talent, quarterback being one of those. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of that, I've seen some rumors that, I think Warren Sapp started the rumors, so probably not real, about the Bears trading Fields and taking Young at 1. So, which would be a very interesting turn of events, but I doubt it. So what's that leave? So that just leaves Denver, Houston. What was the other one? Was the fourth one? Cards. There's another one, and Colts. There's the other one. So that still really no movement on that.
Yeah.
Probably get
Colts did say that they officially interviewed Saturday
for a second time as well. They did a second interview for him, which is kind of big because it means he's on their shortlist. So it's looking for Sean Payton. He was actually saying today on Fox that it's 7% chance he returns to Fox. So looking like he might be ruled out. But team would have to trade a first-round pick at least to the Saints for his services, which, is a bit of a hindrance.
Right.
Because he's still technically owned under contract by New Orleans.
Owned.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a lot of watch this space at the moment.
Yeah, and we'll probably get more clarity after a couple more teams get knocked out, and the teams that go deep in the playoffs are usually where their coaches get pilfered from, especially the hot assistant coaches, the coordinators, etc. So we'll get there closer.
Rana announced for the halftime show. Stephen A. Smith, he likes to be a bit of a shock jock, some might say. Outspoken. Thoughts?
I don't think he had anything pleasant to say, unfortunately, about the announcement, which is a bit rough, I guess, on one, the NFL, and then on Rihanna. But I think she's as a pop talent up there in the last 2 decades with, say, the Beyoncés and the Eminems we had in the past. But does it have an exact? Ain't no Beyonce. Yeah, that's what I thought he would say. So I think that's, you can see what the NFL's done to try and go that direction. But I think the success of her music over the last decade, it would be comparable to any decade of Beyonce's. So.
My thoughts on Stephen A. Smith in a nutshell?
He's a talking head wanker.
He fucking sucks. He's made a career out of talking shit about guys like LeBron James.
He's one of those guys that can't take success in his team winning, so he always takes success in your team losing.
He's a bloke that
shit mentality.
He's a bloke that needs to fall asleep next to a mirror.
Yeah,
and actually, wake up to himself.
Sorry, I think I saw. I think he
like it's but also, do you hate the player or do you hate the game? Because he is a product of the clickbaity, headliney, talking head media that has become ESPN and mainstream media.
You look at the other side of the other networks, and Skip Bayless is,
it's gross,
which is interesting because I think they were going to have a debate between the two of them where it'd just be Skip and
talking over each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's look into this article here. Like, he says all this stuff, and then a week later he retracts it or says sorry. It's like he said stuff to make a headline. And then a week later, it's like, I can just say sorry for it. Yeah. I can just apologise.
And got us morons talking about it.
Yeah.
Across the Pacific Ocean.
You see how it works. Feed the machine, etc. So, anyway, I think it'll probably be an excellent halftime show. It'll be interesting to see who Rihanna will bring out supporting acts in that stable of hers. Like, what's her coaching tree look like, as you will, and who's she going to bring out? Yeah, but I think it's going to be pretty hard to top Dre, Eminem, and
big shoes to fill from last year. No crip walks, thanks Rihanna.
Yes,
but I'll definitely be singing along when the sun we shine together. Yeah, you can stand under my umbrella.
She has plenty of bangers.
I think it'll be
alright.
Bops. I think that's what the kids say these days. Bops. Bops. That'll do us, I suppose, for the NFL. Can't wait to watch these championship games tomorrow. Again, pray for rain. Quickly address a few of these questions.
Yeah, if you want to run through.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Blues and Uta, for joining us here. What do we make of the upcoming Aussie tour of the India Border Gavaskar Series? I think we said earlier in the show that we're not confident.
I was going to say whitewash Australia.
We're either overconfident.
All jokes aside, we think maybe
Monkey A. Smith on the end of the table.
Monkey A. Smith. Monkey A. Smith over here says India will be
disqualified for cheating or something.
Suns to Australia 4-0, and then we will retract the statement 3 days later. No, look, I think it's the strongest side that we've sent over for quite some time.
Yeah.
We think playing the spin, we've got Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, the number 1 and number 2 ranked test bats in the world. It's going to be interesting from a selection point of view as to who we go with. Will we go 2 quicks with Nathan Lyon and insert spinner here? And it's going to be a really challenging series for Travis Head and David Warner for different reasons. One, to prove himself outside of Australia, and one, to regain that confidence of the Australian public in his immense talents as a cricketer. We can't wait. We're 2 weeks away. 4 tests over in the subcontinent, challenging conditions. We would like nothing more than an Aussie series win. But the realists in us probably say we hold our own and we don't get swept, but probably not hoping for a series win. I'll say 2-1 India with 1 drawn.
I think it's a fair statement. It's hard to say anything otherwise than that, and I think you've covered all the points. Question for you. If Australia win out this year, win all the series, where do you think that puts Paddy Cummins on the all-time list for Australian captains?
Pretty hard when you're going up against guys like Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting. Where
He needs to do it for like 5 more years.
Say they go over and they win this trophy, and then they go and win the Ashes in England.
Who are they playing in the summer?
Oh, I think next summer we've got like the West Indies come over and Pakistan, perhaps. I think next summer here, I don't think we have to worry about too much. But when you think of the pedigree of the blokes that went beforehand, and us obviously as spoilt teenagers, watching the Australian team essentially never lose.
Yes,
I think he's still got a ways to go. Does it add some really respectable series wins to his resume? Of course. India is hard for any fucking captain. I don't care who.
Any team.
Yeah, and England in England. So
they say the same thing about coming here and playing us. So
Exactly.
Yeah,
and cricket is a weird sport in that the country that you play in has so much to do with the result of the series. But look, the sticks are in all kinds of form. We saw, again, in home conditions against lesser opposition, Smith, Khawaja, Warner and Labuschagne all feast in our Australian summer. How are they going to play on spin? How are they going to play on rank turners in Nagpur and Dharamshala and Ahmedabad and the like? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be challenging. I can't put my hand on my heart and say I think Australia goes over there and wins this series, but I think we'll be reasonably competitive. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the final comments there was about
your mustache. Yeah, you got a compliment on your mustache. Yes, yeah. Mr.
Thanks.
Blues says, if only I could grow such a good mush, I believe, referring to mush.
Yeah, I looked at us as like, it's not us.
Mustache. My life would have some meaning. Don't worry, Mr. Blues. We're all here talking on the internet and also have no meaning in our lives. So it's a human pursuit, the pursuit for meaning.
I got to say, I'm pretty impressed that it's regrown so well after the wedding as well.
I'd have to say it's probably more so the lighting than anything else.
Yeah,
if you look it up closely, it's looking more orange than that actual dark. Hair colour there. So
it's not too bad.
If you're in search for some meaning, pump out a few children and just play it from there, and it gives your life a bit of meaning, I suppose. Don't clip that.
Let them figure it out for you.
All right, let's
Rambo, some NBA.
Yeah, let's go again across the Pacific.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang!
We have some All-Stars announced. We have the East and the West. It's only a few weeks away, really. Monks, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the starters on the big screen there. Look, I think essentially went as per script. The starters in the West, in the front court, we've got five-time All-Star in Nikola Jokic and perhaps 3-time MVP. We'll talk about that in a second. How's this? 19-time All-Star in LeBron James might break the scoring record in a few weeks. And Zion sneaking in there his second time. Backcourt consisting of Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic. We go over to the East and they've done a little bit here on the flipping the old graphic here, so I'm going to have to try and work out. All right. So they've picked Irving and Mitchell, I think that graphic's wrong, is going to be their guards, yes, with Jason Tatum as the small and with KD as power forward and Giannis as the big. So they haven't gone a true big, I suppose.
Well, have you heard how they're making the teams for this?
No.
It's essentially schoolyard selection. Like just before they're going to play the game, just before they're going to play, like 5 minutes before they're going to play, they're going to pick the teams. Yeah, they're just going to go, you're on my team, you're on my team. Because they had been doing the draft system like leading up to it, but by all accounts, it sounds like they're going to do the selection on the night of. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Wait, what do you mean?
So those five are in, and then they're going to pick out.
So that's why it says West Pool and East Pool. So they're the guy. They've gone away and gone, who are the best players in each conference, and then they've essentially go into the pool to then be selected for the All-Star teams.
As in Mitchell could be playing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it depends on who LeBron
Mitchell
wants.
could play with.
So that's why they've got the two captains. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you've
it's like Pro Bowl-esque. Like stupidity.
Yeah, well, But they've actually been doing this first before, and then the NFL's kind of been copying their
Yeah.
ideas. So, yeah. I believe that's how
Why
it's
not
gonna
just
work.
play East versus West and no defense and no one's going to
Okay.
actually play hard and just fucking make it 180 versus 175? Yeah. So you're telling me, so all these guys from the West could end up playing for LeBron and Giannis and vice
Potentially.
versa?
Potentially.
Well, not all, just 4.
I don't know.
It depends on the selections. Depends who they pick.
Well, obviously it's just, you know,
Who gets
an
picked first.
exhibition weekend.
It is. I mean, that's the,
I don't know why I was
I guess
trying to
that's the
say
point.
the exposition, whatever that means.
That's the point.
Can we go through those other
Interesting.
players that could also be there on the rosters? A few names which sort of raise the old proverbial eyebrow.
Just go back to where we were.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, going down. Yeah, and up and up. Yeah, no, that's the one. Boom. All right. So, AD, Andrew Wiggins, Paul George, Laurie Markkinen, Draymond Green, Demantis Sabonis, Kevin Looney. So they can pick them.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the other 8 starters from whom James and Giannis can pick will be announced Thursday.
Oh, so that's who's in the running. That's the votes. That's
Yes,
the votes.
That's just the votes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're a fair ways off understanding how this is working this year. Looks like
So the 2 captains were the players from each conference who received the most votes.
yes,
Yep.
LeBron and Giannis.
So Feb 2nd will get reserves announced.
Okay, for a game that really is, to put it delicately,
So, and then
means nothing.
And then the teams will play until one team reaches this target score.
Oh, targets?
Yeah, which will be 24 points more than the leading side's cumulative score through 3 quarters. I don't know. Total of 24 was chosen to
Wait,
honor
what?
Kobe Bryant, who wore that number for the second half of his career.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
You gotta
They
run
need
up
to score-
24. You gotta run up
All right.
24-point lead.
Right.
So captains will still draft from the other 8 starters first before moving to reserves, and the conference affiliation of each player will not matter when drafting.
Jesus, there's a bit going on, isn't there?
So go back and forth for the 8 starters.
Starters, and then pick from the reserves.
And you
Pick
got to
from
run up a
reserves.
24-point lead,
Yeah.
which is kind of discouraged in basketball, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dunking on
Yeah.
opposition and whatever.
Yeah.
Strange.
I mean, that'll end the game. So they could just show up and be 24-0 and then the job done. Let's go home.
Let's talk about the NBA. It might
That's
be,
real games.
It
Real
might
games.
be easier to understand.
Because we finished with the NFL section, the Pro Bowl side of it is going to be Peyton Manning and Eli Manning as the captains.
Flag football?
Flag football and a whole bunch of different kind of skill challenges they're going to be picking as well. I feel like they're going to have some sort of picking draft system maybe as well. But not sure if it'll go cross conference, but yeah, they've been picked as the captains. Had a pretty fire trailer video for that from NFL and ESPN. Back to games, NBA.
Let's talk about the East. So the Celtics, they have dropped a few games in the last few weeks. Sixers and Bucks doing their best to chase them down, and a few Aussies that need to be mentioned playing well. So the Celtics still hold first place. They're 35-15. They had won 9 in a row, but Marcus Smart's been out with an ankle. They've dropped their last 3, which kind of opens the door for the pursuing teams there in the East. The 76ers, they've won 6 in a row. I think make that 7 as of today, with a very impressive performance against the Denver Nuggets. Joel Embiid, his PPGs will be up because he was 33.4 before he went
Score 40.
44 and 18 boards today. The Bucks sit in third, as Aussies were very interested in Joe Ingles and his continued rehab from that ACL. And he's playing minutes and he's contributing, which is great to see. 22 minutes per game. What's he averaging? 6-7 points, something like that. The Nets, they've kind of gone a little bit the other way. 2-5 since the last pod. However, Ben Simmons recorded his first triple-double as a net since he was a 76er. Did you guys see last week they played each other and there was no love lost between Big Jojo and Ben Simmons?
Yeah, not at all. Did you see Ben during the week? I think he got phantom elbow or phantom hand across his face, and he had to go up the tunnel. Took himself out of the game, went up the tunnel. And, people getting stuck into him a bit about that.
You're soft, Ben
exactly.
Simmons, blah blah blah.
Yeah. And it didn't look like much, so there may be a little bit there, but and anything he does is going to be heavily scrutinised.
Of course. He's got the monkey on his back. I too have been slapped by the Phantom once. I'm talking about the Phantom Pokey that used to live down at the Atlantic Club and other clubs around. And he used to, you have a win and it would say, the Phantom. Took a bit of my money. I'll see exactly where you're coming from there, Ben. The
Comparing
Cavs,
yourself to Simmons.
well, in terms of phantoms, phantoms. The Cavs, they've sort of struggling to get a bit of consistency. We saw Spider Mitchell going mental. What do you have? 71 points a couple of weeks ago, and they've
I think he had a 60 burger the other day as well. So.
Well, I think in the last sort of week or two, it's kind of been win-loss, sort of bit red, bit green. A team that is, however, kind of going in the right direction. You've got the jersey hanging up there, Monks, is the Miami Heat. We've sort
Jimmy
of
Buckets?
Yeah, Jimmy Buckets. It's weird, isn't it? We said at the start of the year, the Heat aren't playing too good. Jimmy Buckets has been out. Tyler Hero hasn't been playing. Ben's been in and out.
Yeah.
You get all three of them together, they start playing good hoops.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're 10-4 in January. I think that's more deserved to where they stand.
They're making their run at the moment, so it's good. And there's a bit of an interesting story there for Jimmy Buckets. There was a kid and his mum travelled 4,000 miles to see Jimmy play, and then he was inactive for that game.
And he was real disappointed in himself.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he next game he played, he flew him out and gave him courtside seats, etc. So they had a great feeling. But it just kind of shows, I guess, how loved Jimmy Buckets is in that team, and he really is taking them in the right direction. And they've probably pretty happy where they are at the moment, and they're poised to make a run at some of the teams ahead of them.
Is top four unrealistic?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I agree.
It's they're 4 games behind. They can probably get there pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that form of 10-4 going, and they'll definitely get there.
Then we sort of, probably Knicks and Hawks first in 7th and 8th. Knicks, again, it's kind of like the Cavs been sort of up and down. Julius Randle been pretty good. Hawks getting it together, 6-2 since the last pod. And then we just run into congestion. Sort of play in congestion. I think if we work our way down, Pistons, Hornets, line through them. Magic most likely.
I'd say yeah.
Most likely line through them. However, Paolo Banchero's just about an all-star in his first year. He's under $1.10 to be Rookie of the Year. And then you look at the rest. Pacers, Wizards, Bulls, Raptors. They're all just below 500. The Wizards, they traded Rui Hachimura to the Lakers for Kendrick Nunn and 3 second-rounders.
Yeah.
Our thoughts regarding that?
Seems like a big trade.
I think that's good for the Wizards.
Yeah.
Like Rui's a good player, but 3 second-rounders, you could get anyone in that. It's it's the NBA here.
True, but the NBA second round's not usually where you may. Yeah, it's.
But 3, that's 3 dice rolls.
I guess. I think that I take your point. Yeah, 3 dice rolls in a round that's it doesn't have the star power of the first, of course. For obvious reasons. But I guess you definitely get some quality players there, and then someone might stand up and be really good for you. Sorry, I was just laughing. The Australian fullback scored, and her last name was Dick. So,
Well,
immature me on the end of the table.
we probably need to do one episode where we've got a Quinton de Kock and a Niroshan Dikwilla hanging up there.
Yeah.
For no reason outside of them being outstanding cricketers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, wicket-keeping batsmen.
Yeah. One of us wear a hard dick shirt. So.
Round the wrong way.
Yeah.
It says Punjab. Fuck. All right, into the West, boys. The Nuggets, that they're at top of the Western Conference, 34-15. You have been singing the praises of Nikola Jokic.
Yes.
And out of nowhere, he's come into like $1.70 to be the MVP to three-peat. What do you reckon? The way that he's been playing is pretty hard to argue.
I think so. And if you look at the fake stat, maybe that's a good reason why. So if you look at triple doubles, he leads the league in 15. Luca is second at 10. And then the next closest is 6 behind at 4. You have to look at Abid as a comparison, he's got 1. So
he doesn't get assists.
Exactly.
So you look at today, and the Sixers beat the Nuggets.
True.
And Jojo scores 44 and puts up 18.
Yes.
That's the counter argument to.
Yeah, and he's leading the league in the scoring. So
exactly. So there's a pretty handy counter to Joker being the MVP there.
Yeah. So it's I think again it'll depend on how they go through the back half of the year. I'd say one game probably won't define the MVP, and Joker. From what I saw, had a pretty average game. He probably be a bit disappointed with what he put up in that one. But, if he has the next 2 weeks like that, then maybe there's a problem there. But I think he'll probably return back to his usual form. Statistically, across all the categories, he's doing really well. He's comparable to, if not better than his previous 2 MVPs. So you can see the reasoning why he's in that conversation and firming as a favourite. And like you said, probably Abid is the other big man that scores bulk points is the other one.
Also have to consider Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum, I suppose. But it's crazy that the difference that 2 weeks makes.
Yep.
Because we were looking at Joker a few weeks ago, and he was lurking, around it.
Well, I think we asked the question, will he? And now it's kind of like he's firmed as like he should probably get his third one, and it's just whether. Can anyone chase him down, or does he kind of like go into a lull period, as I just mentioned before, and someone else can really close that gap? But either way, the Nuggets are still playing excellent basketball and 3 games ahead of second place?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about Shannon Sharp? Hilarious.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp. How did this start? He was getting stuck into a few members of the Grizzlies.
I can't remember who on the Grizzlies team it was because it was a while ago. I don't know. I don't know who said the first comment, but essentially it was like, "You're shit, you're shit." It's like, "Do you want some?" He's like, "Yeah." And Shannon Sharp's not going to back down. He's
no.
Actually, Shannon Sharp is a fucking massive dude, by the way. He's actually got into bodybuilding since he's retired. So he doesn't take shit from no one. And then...
What about Steve Adams?
Yeah.
Like, there's levels to being a big fella.
Yeah, but... yes. He's definitely a big tall Kiwi. But I think then what happened was... It wasn't Morant, but Yar's father... I think it's T, maybe, from the other side of the court, was getting stuck in the Shannon, and they had to be separated, and that's kind of...
Verbal altercation is what this story suggests.
Yeah, so, a lot of that all will be separated, a little bit of chat. They took Shannon up the tunnel, and then I think he came back for the third quarter. Let him back there, and cooler heads prevailed. He did apologise during the week for his actions. He's just like, yes, I'm not going to take it back with step, etc. like that, but I am a grown-ass man. I shouldn't be doing this shit. And a lot of people watch me and watch what I do, and it's like, it's not what I want to be pushing. So,
if that was what he said in verbatim, I'm a grown-ass man and I shouldn't be doing this shit, I empathise. It doesn't seem like too much has come about it. A few words were said and the rest of it. We can get on with our lives.
It was interesting visuals and etc. So, was that a Lakers game? I think the Lakers were there.
How about the Kings?
That fucking beam. After we said, they won't
turn the beam.
They won't turn that beam on very much.
Beam me up, Delhi. They're in third.
Yeah.
So that starts to beg the question: are they for real?
I have to say so. Yeah.
Surely not. Surely the Sacramento Kings aren't the champions of the NBA this year.
Champions is a bit of a stretch. But look at the team.
Could they play for a Western Conference? Could they?
Maybe. Pelicans are right behind them. Same probably conversation there
and
as
been
well.
going the other way,
yes,
with Zion being out.
Yeah. So are they one-man team? But I think they're kind of both there primed that they maybe a little bit overs at this point. But we will have to wait and see how that plays over the
We're halfway through the season. They're sitting third.
Yeah.
So you probably don't see them missing out at this stage.
No, I think probably the biggest change will come from Golden State Warriors, Suns, maybe even the Mavs there.
But they got a lot of work to do there.
Exactly, but they need to hit their straps and start coming through if they can. Then that's probably where these two teams maybe move down in that pecking order. Because we're still waiting for those teams kind of maybe to hit their straps a little bit and hit their get going, because at the moment they're all sitting around 500.
So it's less about the Kings, whether the Kings are playing good or bad basketball. It's more those other teams are playing unders at the moment.
Well, look, if you go from a Kings down to even the Timberwolves, 9 and 10, there's a game or 2 games difference. It's super close. So a lot can change very, very quickly.
And that's not to take anything away from De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis for being fucking elite so far. But you just look at those teams nipping at the heels, and you look at, the Mavs, the Warriors, even the T-Wolves, who, probably have been a little bit disappointing so far, and the Suns, dropping off that good start. You expect them to come pretty good, when you're sort of talking April, May.
Well, I think we said it for go with the T-Wolves. I think we were saying on the last potty that they need to kind of work out what their strategy is to get those big men firing, and maybe they've finally hit that, whatever that chemistry is or whatever they need to get in.
But it's not KAT and Gobert that's been killing it. It's Ann Edwards. Ann Edwards. I think I was looking at.
Well, maybe that's the thing though. Do they take a step back and put someone else in the forefront? Do they just change their strategy a little bit? And it's obviously whatever they've done is working and they're winning games. But
that trade did not make sense at the time. Yes. It still does not make sense. Trading for Gobert when you've got one of the elite fucking glass cleaning big men in the league, to have 2 of them, it just seems like you've got twins out there and not in the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah,
Twins.
Yeah.
Shout out to the late great Austin Powers. Don't think he died. No, I think he's still around.
I think Mike Myers is still around. I think Austin Powers maybe
the character might be dead.
He might be dead because I'm not sure if they'd let one of his movies run in this day and age.
Yeah, probably fat bastard, body shaming, the rest of it. He did go on the subway diet, little people like Jared. Again, contentious topic.
Yes. So yes. Yeah, I don't think they'd run one of those movies this time. So.
No, you can't get away with anything these days, can you?
Exactly.
All right, so let's look at the middle of the standings there. Mm-hmm. Pelicans, Clippers, Mavs, Warriors, T-Wolves, Suns.
Yep. Of
them, we expect probably the Warriors to make a charge.
Yep.
Steph, a little bit of a naughty boy, pegging his fucking COVID-infested mouth guard into the stand.
Well,
Not too much.
Have you seen he's only been ejected 3 times, and all 3 times have been
pegging his mouth guard?
For mouth guard related.
And it's such a flimsy mouth guard. Like if I'm a fan and I get hit by Steph Curry's mouth guard, I'm going, put that in my fucking pocket.
eBay, bro.
eBay, yes. Facebook Marketplace. I swear, bro, it's Steph. Serious. Don't mind the shit underbite that looks exactly like my mouth. There's not much in that. They surely climb. You'd think that Mavs team with Luka playing the way that he does. Yeah, so look, let's not ride too much King Dick at this stage.
Yeah, and keep going down. Like even back down to the Lakers. Like there's still a lot of they're a little bit below, but
with AD rolling his ankle first game back.
That's probably a big caveat. Yeah, with no AD, that'll be very, very difficult for him.
Made it back into the game
today.
I thought he returned in that game.
He might. I think he's been sitting though. I don't think he's played recently.
Can you look up today? Yeah. He might be managed. He might be the old D2D, day to day.
Well, they might be limiting his minutes as well. LeBron seemed ageless, still putting up 40 burgers like it's anything else.
What does he need? 130 points?
Yeah, somewhere between 100 and 150. He's very close.
It should happen before the next pod. We're going to pod in 2 weeks. We have a wedding next week. I have a wedding next week. I'm not getting married per se.
117.
I'm attending 117. Yeah, you'd think he probably does that before our next podcast.
He only needs 2 or 3 games.
And
at the most, I'd say.
And then Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith can fucking
suck each other off. Bit of old Dutch rudder for those two.
How can you hate the man? I don't get it. Like, if you want to say Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
No arguments. Like, no arguments.
But to say shit.
But to shit on the bloke consistently and say, oh, he only went to Miami and had this supporting cast.
He only won because of
and
sport.
blah, blah, blah. It gets old pretty quick, I reckon.
Yeah. He's still an elite talent. So it'd be
better than elite. He's arguably the best basketball player of all time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like this season, like in his current form, he's still an elite player. Like even at the age,
just about 39.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Was it next year or the year after when he tries to play with his sons and how that all works and where he's going to end up to make that all happen. But yeah, it'd be interesting because I think he's got a year. He's got to do a. Do they also do a 1 year mandatory college and then he can come out? Because I think.
There's nothing that's...
Just come to Australia, play ball for a year and then head back over.
Wollongong Hawks. Illawarra, excuse me. Illawarra Hawks.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing. LeBron came straight out of high school.
Did he? I thought they had a mandatory
Yes, he did.
Anyway.
I think he did. I think they've changed the rules since then. Because I think that's why...
Because isn't that why Ball came down here and played for a year? And because instead of playing for a year in college, because they got to do a year. I'm sure it's a year.
Okay, these days maybe it might be different to back in the day. But there used to be a bunch of them that used to come out of high school.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they changed it, so they could keep these guys and NCAA could make all the fucking money they wanted. Yeah.
Back to something we do know. AD played just under 34 minutes today.
So his ankle's fine.
He's fine.
Can't go straight from high school anymore. Thank you, Trent. Rule change. So Bronny, I think, will have to spend a year in college.
Or the Illawarra Hawks.
Oh, yeah, I'll come here, yeah. Need a year in college or professional before going to the NBA.
Bottom down there, beside the Lakers, we probably think playing
Scroll down, Jimmy.
We got Spurs and Rockets there.
They're done.
Playing for draft picks.
Yeah, definitely, they're done.
All right. Have you got this sound bite lined up?
Oh, we have an NRL. Oh, yeah, it's just you. You just do it if you want.
No, I think we've got it, though.
Well, what are we doing?
You press it.
That
is literally my voice.
Yeah.
Well, it's that time of the year. Rugby league is just around the corner.
It's silly season.
Yeah, no. It's the end of silly season.
Oh, well.
I've had this discussion with my wife, and
we're into dumb shit season for the NRL.
Yeah, well, I tend to say silly season's probably end of January, and then sometimes she's like, "Well, no, you've tried to tell me that Anzac Day is the end of fucking silly season." I go, "Oh, there's a few months in between there." Regardless. The big story coming out of the NRL is that the Rugby League Players Association is having negotiations regarding a combined bargaining agreement, and they have been doing or refusing rather to do media in the lead up.
Yeah,
that's your understanding around this.
That's their protest essentially. So they're all the teams essentially are heavily into preseason training, getting ready. So of course. Trying to promote the league, the media's in every team's training camp trying to get sound bites, etc. And I think almost all the teams across the league are boycotting it. So the players are not fronting the media because they don't have a CBA in place. They're a bit pissed off with the NRL for announcing the salary cap for the season, saying like, how can you announce a salary cap when you haven't got a CBA in place? So Clinton Newton, I believe,
he's the chair of the Players Association.
Said, he's never been involved in negotiations. It's gone this long, and a bit disappointed in the whole process. I believe with the way it's kind of been played out and the way. I guess what the players have been, the position they've been put into. And then the media side of it, you've got the quote there, they've got 160 players on standby in the US to come over.
Hang on. What's this sound?
Well, yeah.
It's not a fart, it's the back end of the bottle of mayo.
If you followed the NFL and their CBA negotiations, the media will always try to make the players out to look bad because it's in the owners' interests to get the best deal in for them. Which really works. You get the casuals, you get all the fans involved, and they're being greedy, they don't want to play. So it kind of puts it poorly in their court. But realistically, on the other side of it is the players are usually in the right. What they're asking for was it better medical cover, more support for the lower tier players, and that goes across leagues and across genders, I believe, as well. And want a CBA for the women's players as well, so they get their fair share. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's excellent.
Let's go through those points. So currently, under the current CBA, if they need a surgery post retirement, it has to be done within 12 months of retiring. So you saw a bloke like Andrew Fafita. He had to have like 6 surgeries after he retired, all within that 12-month window, because that's all he would be covered for. And if you've played 10, 12, 15 years rugby league football,
got chronic knee injuries,
and it's obviously it's going to take a toll on your body, and rehabbing different joints, you're thinking that's going to take longer than 12 months, in my uneducated opinion. Surely they can look. You probably don't want to have lifetime cover, because then people can milk it and they say, I slipped off a ladder and it's because of I played in the rugby league.
Yeah,
but if they just were to agree, say 5 years after the NRL or 3 years after the NRL, we pay for it.
I'd say just do what the NFL does with their retirement fund, and I think that covers them for life. Because I think, shoulder reconstructions, knee reconstructions, the things that might come in your 50s, but you've got your wear and tear on your body from playing in the NRL, I think you definitely could still be involved in that. And that's why they just create a fund, and then it's essentially private health insurance, or universal healthcare is what they've created, which is for the players and just across the board for what the players need to help them out.
I like where your head's at there. I think that's very altruistic to think that the NRL would be concerned about their players for life.
Oh yeah, the NRL doesn't care.
But from a business sense, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think it'll be in this one either. But I think that's what they're trying to push for is more support. Yeah, you're expecting us to have a gladiator sport and essentially potentially throw away long-term health for your spectacle. You should support us long-term.
The counter argument would be it's a free country. You can choose whatever you do. If you don't like the wear and tear that the NRL takes on your body,
also true. But then
go be a teacher.
Yeah, but they're also true. The NRL might have a problem with young fellas coming into the sport if there's not a good stream.
Supply and demand.
Exactly, yeah. Mums and dads will be like, my kid might have long-term brain injuries. I don't want to deal with all the concussions and all that other stuff. Like, I think dementia and Alzheimer's is probably going to be more of a problem long-term.
You saw, Mario Fennick on 60 Minutes.
Exactly.
It's horrible. It's CTE is horrible.
Yeah.
And that's where the players should have a bargaining chip to say, look, we understand these risks. We take these risks on board. We know that we play in a physically demanding sport. Yeah. However, we deserve some sort of remuneration because of undergoing that risk.
Either remuneration or support long term. Like it's
or both.
Or both. Yeah, exactly.
The NRL is killing. Like, crowd numbers aren't going good, but in terms of TV deals and TV viewership, the sport's as popular as it's ever been.
I'd say State of Origin and like the premier games are. I'd say some of the viewership for some of, not many people are tuning in for Tigers Camp Raiders game.
That's true.
I think they still need to do more if they want to have the longevity of the sport. And selling it to mums and dads is probably the main thing. That's kind of, it's the diehard kind of, I guess, nature. If you use the NFL again as a comparison with the high school, the college, the systems, the kind of how they get you to buy into not just the sport but also the career journey and what it means for the families involved. I think it's very different than but also cultures are, the American culture and the Australian culture is different. It's very, very, very different. Yeah.
So medical cover post career. Can we agree that the NRL
they should have something?
Well, and the NRL probably goes tick. We'll meet that. We'll go 3 or 5 years, or perhaps 10 years. Well, they're not going to do a lifetime.
I think the problem is for any of it is just like, well, how is the NFL going to cover and pay for us? they've been cutting costs left, right, and centre to try and stay afloat and make money. And I think reportedly in the park of say 50 mil is what they made last year. But trying to support the thousands of players for however long is expensive. So I don't know. I think the NFL will push hard not for that one. NRL, sorry. What did I say?
NFL twice.
NRL.
I think they'll tick off and say it's 3 years or 5 years. All right, second demand is that lower tier players to be better remunerated. There's people that train with the teams. Essentially, it's close to being in the full squad, and your salary is around about 30 or 40 grand. Again, we talk about supply and demand. The demand is here.
Yeah,
we love watching rugby league. So I don't know if the supply of elite talent is there.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting because the men's minimum is 80 to 100K. I know it's been 80 for at least the last decade, so it's been pretty low.
That has to go up. What the AFL's like 130. If you make a 30-man squad in the AFL, I think you're on 130, 140 grand.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. Because that's minimum for like your top 30 in the playing the team. But then it's also, you get a whole bunch of guys that come around the squad, like you said, that might not make that 30 but are involved in the process. A lot of guys that play, in the cup leagues that then get called up and might play only 3 or 4 games of NRL in the year but then get paid fuck all for it. So, which I think probably goes in the training wages and match fees for those guys that aren't on your regular 30 list that have to do it. How do we support them? And then how does that feed through into the cup leagues and hopefully make them better? Because, for those guys, say Nico Hines, classic example, for those dudes that play and don't really break in until they're 27, 28, how do you keep them in the game until they're ready to hit their prime and actually be in a top 30 squad team list for their career? So,
because you have a lot of guys that maybe have that talent that are 21, 22, and they just say, fuck this, like I could go do a trade right now and secure my future and just give it up, and I know that I've got a safe, secure future.
How many are also doing a trade and then you're probably only giving 50-50 to each one? Whereas, if they could be able to focus on one, they would be able to make a roster, but because they're working 7 to 5 and then they do training afterwards. Like they can't really like focus themselves.
And that's where the old school mentality comes in and go, we used to do that. The players in the 80s all used to have a trade.
Well, and that's probably the recent chat is all those dudes coming out and going, they're greedy. Why just sign it and come on and start playing, you're greedy. But I think what they're asking for is not greed.
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, same.
On all accounts.
I think all those old dinosaurs need to go jump back in their box, become oil and fuck off.
Watch out for the next comment.
Yeah, exactly.
CBA for women's players, again, probably the litmus test, the direct comparison is the AFLW. They got a combined bargaining agreement last year for 18 teams, and the NRL is just asking for 10. I think the TV ratings per game leans towards the NRLW compared to the AFLW, so they've got a leg to stand on there. And I think they're not asking for much. They just want to be covered if they get injured. So if you do your
same thing, average wage, protection, guarantees.
If you do your ACL and you're playing NRLW, making sure the next 12 months of your rehab, you have an income. Like, I don't think that's unrealistic or unreasonable to ask for.
Otherwise, they're on contract and it's basically like the UFC. So if
you're injured,
it's too bad.
See ya.
You're not getting paid anymore. So I think so. If you want those leagues to last long term, they got to be supported. So. If you want same point, if you want the women to be in the sport and playing regularly and to improve the quality of sport, they need support to be able to do it.
And then the counter argument again is, well, you're not bringing in the money that the men do, so if you do your ACL, tough luck, pay for your own rehab. And I think,
but if you want the league to continue,
exactly, and you're probably going
to die.
Well, you're probably going to have to run at a loss for quite some time. But I think the AFL. The men have said, we're happy to subsidise, and we talked about the NBA just before. That's essentially,
well, the WNBA hasn't made money in its entire existence, but it's there. you're probably going to take that hurt, and you might take that hurt for another couple of decades, but you're trying to build it. Like you're not going to get a new league stood up and it's going to be amazing on day dot.
Yeah, and when it comes to being looked after if you're injured, I don't think that's unreasonable. No. You've got a daughter, I've got a daughter. They're only young, but as a father, if
we're going to say fuck that shit, go play tennis.
You're sending your girls off to play contact sport. Yeah. I think the least that you could expect as a father would be the league to at least look after them if they're injured.
Yeah, agree.
It's going to be interesting. I think obviously
is there a deadline?
It probably is. I think as well it's a lot of hyperbole. I think all these headlines of the season might not go ahead and we've got all these 160 players on standby.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important what Jimmy's just highlighted there, because the first game's on the 11th of February.
Which is Indigenous All-Stars.
Currently, no plans to boycott it. I don't think they'll boycott this game because of the what it means, I guess.
The cultural importance.
Exactly. Come week one, if there's no CBA in place, maybe, I don't think preseason games, maybe not, but we've seen in the NFL, if there's nothing signed, then they won't show up. So maybe no preseason games, maybe a slow start the season. Hopefully not. Hopefully it'll get sorted out by then. And that's probably the deadline would be, the week after that when they start preseason games. So probably late February is what I'm feeling.
It's not far off.
It's not far off. So they're going to have to get it moving.
So hopefully there's some heads at some tables that are brighter than these three heads and they get it done.
Well, there you go. Lock in. The NFL did the same thing. Get everyone in a room. They lock them in for... have someone mediate, they lock them in and try to nut out a contract that they can or bargaining agreement we're talking here, and they can all agree to it. So, yeah. So when's that article? Yes. Okay, cool. So maybe next week. Maybe we'll get a result by the next week.
Fingers crossed.
It'll be important. It'll be really interesting because I don't think we've had a labour stoppage for a sporting league in Australia in a very long time.
Ever?
Maybe the league split.
We had 97.
It wasn't really a work stoppage, but it ended
there was a splittage. Super League year, we're talking 97.
A disgruntle essentially in money and pay, and who the big clubs and small clubs not happy, so split it off.
We were only young when that was going on.
And you talk to the old fellows that lived through, followed the sports through that, and said it was shit. Like it was terrible they were very lucky that the league survived and they were able to come back to create the NRL when they did. So a league split would probably kill the NRL, I reckon, which would be dumb. I don't think they'd do that. Work stoppage more likely, but hopefully it doesn't impact the start of the season, but we will see.
I think it's much ado about nothing.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
We'll see. Let's talk some players moving. So Stephen Crichton has put pen to paper, it seems, to go from Penrith to the Bulldogs at the end of the 2023 season.
Last year with the
Panthers. Gunning to go 3 in a row. Can he play fullback at an elite level? I'd say so.
Yeah. Well, it looks like they're going to... I'm not sure. They're going to try someone this year who wasn't their fullback last year.
Was it Hayes... Parnham, I think he's a ex-Eel.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think it's him, and I think he might be coming off a serious knee injury as well. Yeah. But this year aside, Stephen Crichton, I think would be chomping at the bit to go get some fullback money and join his ex-teammates in Matt Burton and Viliame Kikau.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the chat there.
Where do you see the Dogs? If Critter's playing one and you've brought in Burton and seen how well he played this year, and then you're bringing in the likes of Reid Marnie and Viliame Kikau, you'd think they'd be a reasonable outfit.
Yeah, they improved last year. I think they'll improve again this year. And by all accounts, they'll improve again in the following year. The question I have is still who plays 7.
Yeah, I don't think they know.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they can maybe take, be a finals contender without a solidified 7. So, yeah, time will tell. And, which is interesting because I think they said today they are dropping out of the Moses contract chat. So it's now down to Eels and Tigers.
Interesting. I think Kyle Flanagan might have something to say.
yeah, if you get some love, then
Need some love.
you need some love. Yeah.
Come on our podcast and give you some love, Cole. I think he looked good in the games that he played this year.
Get a bit hard done by media and I guess coaching staff at the time, but then new coaching staff, the former Panthers assistant coming across. Gus Gould's doing there, weaving his magic, getting all these guys.
And I think that's probably the elephant in the room that needs discussing. The impact of Gus Gould has been substantial for that club.
Yeah.
You can say what you like about the bloke in terms of his commentating, and if you think it's a little bit
I think it really helps that he's come Penrith are top at the peak of their powers, and now he's got relationships with those guys and stealing them. So I think that definitely helps the situation.
Come play Frankie Gus.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll reward you with some cash too. So it definitely plays into it. Like if the Panthers were wooden spooners and they'll come across, it's probably a different story. But it definitely helps that he's got relationships with the club that's best in league at the moment.
Pretty remarkable for one bloke to have that kind of influence over young men and playing in a gladiator sport.
Yeah, wait until same thing for the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins will do well, probably because Wayne Bennett's
Uncle
there.
Wayne.
Yeah, the Bennett mystique, I've really, from what I've seen, the squad they've kind of put together for the Dolphins and add a little bit of Wayne. I think they'll be good. I don't think they'll be as bad as people think. My concern's probably more with the Dragons. We can get into that when we preview this season. I think Dragons might be spoon favourites, bro. They really haven't recruited anyone, and they've got young talent that wants out the door.
And we've lost two blokes already to a serious stomach condition and a bloke swinging a hammer.
And that's actually really another dude that probably can't have a beer we should shout a beer for because he's going to miss the whole season.
Yeah, then, we're talking about Cody Ramsey.
Yeah, career at risk. Dragons, it's all Ben Hunt. Ben Hunt misses any games, I think they're fucked.
He was very good. He was very good last year. So maybe last year I said gentleman's 10th, maybe gentleman's 14th.
Just not last, bro. Just not last.
Just not last.
We will discuss that.
I'm here for it.
In a few weeks' time.
I can't wait for a Dragon Spoon just for you too.
Oh no. We'll discuss in a few weeks. I don't want to think about it for a few weeks. Let's get through Australia and India, and then we can do that.
So another news: Marty Tapau got a lifeline from the Brisbane Broncos, so he'll go there on a 1-year deal, help out Payne Haas. So that's a bit of a good get there.
Thoughts around that as a quasi Broncos fan?
Yeah, I think that's he's good size. He kind
of size.
Yeah, massive size. The whole shit show that was the end of the Manly season. He wanted out. He's just an aging talent. Maybe turns the ball over more than you'd like, but I think the role coming off the bench might suit him a lot better.
He's also not that old. He's 32.
Yeah,
he's obviously one of the strongest men in the NRL. Again, he's not going to go there and
he doesn't. Well, I think that's
have to take on the role that Pat Carrigan or Tom Flegler or the likes takes on. But a little bit of impact and plays.
30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, fucking half an hour off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is perfect. Will fit him perfectly.
Just a few fun stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's MasterChef.
Sorry, I read the last one. Keep going.
I'm not a big fan of reality TV. If you guys have never sort of,
I know MasterChef, and I know the Frenchman
Manu Fidel. That's he's a French chef.
Yes, he's been on a lot of different shows. He's actually.
Is it MasterChef?
No, he's not. He's on.
Well, look,
he's on that home cooking show. They show up to their house and cook.
Ready, Steady, Cook.
Yeah, no, he was on that one. Yes.
Was he?
He was on that one.
That's when you used to have a sick day as a kid. You fake one, and you'd be like, "Oh fuck, it's 10 o'clock. What am I putting on?" And Ready, Steady, Cook comes on. The capsicum and the tomato.
He wasn't on that. He was on Channel 7 for whatever their home. They'd show up and you cook in your own house, and they'd be the judges. He was that. I know you're talking about that.
Cooking in your own house.
Yeah.
Australia's Got Talent, MasterChef.
MasterChef.
Wasn't okay. He's on MasterChef.
Dancing with the Stars.
Keep going.
Yeah.
My Kitchen Rules.
My Kitchen Rules. That's how you're thinking of.
There you go.
Yeah.
Not Ready, Steady, Cook.
He wasn't ready to cook. I know he definitely was. I've watched plenty of episodes.
Tomato versus yeah, a lot of sick days. Oh, jeez.
I think they had at one point they had it on at like 3:30. So 3:30 to 4 o'clock time slot. So
Premium.
right after school.
Getting out of school.
Yeah.
Funny. Well, there is a reason behind this story.
Yes, he's young fella.
Yeah, he's young blokes playing South under 19s. So who would have thought from
Let him cook.
From souffle or duck.
Well, he's probably been well fed, bro. He's made sure he's had all his proteins.
What about my two brain cells trying to communicate with each other? They're trying to come up with two French dishes. Jesus Christ, that was hard. That would have been hard listening. Anyways, son of Manu Fidel is playing for South Juniors, so keep an eye on him. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of sad if you're a rugby fan. England Rugby has come out in this week saying that tackling above the waist is going to be banned in their grade levels. I think on an international level and their top tier, obviously going to keep tackling as people have been tackling for 150 years. I suppose it's a concussion concern.
Yeah.
However, you said something pertinent, I thought, in the group text. Has anyone ever been knocked out by a knee or a hip to the head?
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the majority of people getting knocked out. So limiting people to just tackling below the waist doesn't seem like a quick fix to the concussion issue.
I actually think for the NRL, and I can't remember the NRL fan site that did the analytics on it, it's like a 40 to 30% split. Like it's 40% high.
We spoke about it at your house in the old studio.
And it's like 30% knees. So it's like across the board you put your head in the wrong spot, you can get knocked out.
Sure.
I think below the waist, when you think about it, is kind of silly because if you want to usually hit the dude in the belly, which is above the waist. So
and a lot of that, obviously we don't watch a lot of rugby per se, but you've seen the way that league's gone recently.
I think this would be a great rule for the rugby league because you get none of those 3 men around the top. Like hold them up,
that's the way that the game's gone. That stand up and wrestle and go in, 2 or 3 versus one.
Two hold them up, and the third one comes and
exactly. And you're seeing a bit of the head clash coming in, and obviously you still see someone go low and hit their head on a hip. Yeah. I just don't see what kind of reasonable thinking or thought process or logic has gone into this as a way to reduce concussion.
I don't think it has because I don't think it makes sense. The best way to tackle, and the way I was taught, it's pube to pube. So armpit to the top of your pubes.
Which pubes are we talking about?
Yeah, well, the top of your pubes and then your armpit pubes. That's your tackle box. That's where you should be hitting blokes because that's kind of the softest spot. You're trying to stay away from knees and away from shoulders. So, that I think is to me is more of a preference than, if you want, rule out everything above the shoulders. That to me makes a lot of sense. You don't want to get whacked in the chops, but below the waist, I think you're going too low. In that sense because knees are bad. And who was it? I think there's a rugby dude during the week that got copped a big knee as well and got knocked out, which this rule would not fix. Would probably make it just as likely, if not worse.
What have you got, Monks? You got the story there?
I got bits of the story. So the legislation would cover all community games, so club, school, college, universities, at both age grade and adult levels, covering National 1 divisions and below. So that's the men's. So it seems
that's drastic change there, isn't it? It's essentially anyone that's not playing professional rugby or playing for England.
Yeah, and the other
which would cause a massive, I guess, issue with long-term development of players, because you'd be fundamentally changing the game as
at a grassroots level. You're changing the technique of tackling.
And the other thing in that percentage is like a lot of it is head clashes with defenders. If you
friendly fire.
If you make it all below the waist, they're all in the same area. Yeah. So that's
narrowing that zone where people can.
Yeah. It's another way that you're taught. If you're tackling two of you, one of you should be going, I'm going low, and one's going high. There's a high low. for that reason. Like I'll hit him across the chest, you hit him across the waist. So you keeping your heads away from each other, because if you go low, both go low, just go straight around and whack your heads.
And how often do you see that?
Yeah.
As fans of the NRL, you see that friendly fire, both have gone around the hips and they both kind of wrap around. And
Nathan Friend, I think, was classic for that. He got plenty, didn't he? Most of his concussions, I think, were in that kind of frame, going low and, either copying a knee or going around the side and hopping. To me, it kind of seems short-sighted from probably a decision from those that maybe haven't done enough research into that.
Yeah. So on that, Rugby Football Union did come out with a statement saying that there's a lot more discussions to have, a lot of grassroots level teams or
if you really
clubs.
Want to make it that safe, it's flag football. Put the Oz tags on.
That's the old South Park episode. The old bubble football.
Yeah.
That's it.
Time will tell if this is going to be, implications in the future and the future of that sport as a whole. Because to me, I don't want to sound too drastic, but this sounds like the beginning of the end for me.
Well, I mean, without...
It's good for us, though. If England...
For leagueies.
Yeah, well, no. If England sucks at rugby, it still helps us.
Possibly. What other rule change would you have that would sort of solve this problem? Well, do you penalise high shots a lot more heavily?
They are very, very strict on high shots anyway. Like,
and to the point where it's almost over the top already.
Yes.
Where the incidentals, we've seen in the little rugby that we watch, you kind of scratch your head. That we saw that in a few of the Wallabies games last year, where it changes the outcome of a game.
We've got the rugby sevens that was played recently on the TV at the moment. There was
actually live.
There was a yellow card in one of these the other day, and it was a head clash. But the person had gone, the tackler defender had gone in at the waist. But the attacking player had also ducked down, and they essentially just both bent over and headbutted each other. So the defender, though with right technique, still got the yellow card. It's...
Well, I suppose...
It's a tough sport, and it's hard to... we're talking seconds, millisecond decisions on technique and things like that. You're going to have accidents and mistakes happen. That's just part and parcel of football.
We could talk about this forever, but you also made a good point. Like, even if they change that rule, so you have to tackle from the waist down, like that doesn't stop the ball carrier from ducking or changing their point of impact as well to create a penalty or something like that. So it's just
wait until some bloke's like running on his knees because he's like, you can't tackle.
That's it. It's going to open up a whole other can of worms in terms of sportsmanship versus gamesmanship.
Let's finish off the rugby union section. Eddie Jones did come back, is now the Australian coach, got a 5-year deal, so he will take us into the next World Cup. But that was about it.
Let's talk some round ball here.
Do you actually have any... They got eliminated during the week from whatever cup they were playing in.
Who are you talking about?
Ronaldo and... Al Nasser, isn't it?
Oh, Saudi. Sorry, I wasn't up to date. Saudi Football Cup.
I don't think it was Saudi Cup. They were playing in some tournament over there, and they got eliminated from it. But anyway,
you can chase that one up.
Figure that one out.
As per our discussion a few weeks ago, when we said, "Is it worth the money?" Well, on an individual level, maybe, but on a legacy level, no, because who gives two fucks?
Yeah, I think I saw they're up to like 15 mil followers on Instagram.
So, he's doing a job.
That's a job he's been over there for. So.
FA Cup has been this weekend, so no EPL. City knocked out Arsenal, which is going to be interesting because that's the Arsenal sitting in 1, City sitting in 2 in the league. Does that give them a mental advantage? Do they know, well, we can beat this team?
Yeah.
Are we the best team in the league? Time will tell. Lots of draws, a few yawns really in the FA Cup over the weekend. Let's talk about the EPL last weekend. Erling Haaland, he continues to impress. He had another hat trick against Wolves. That gets him to 25 goals in 19 games. That gets him 9 clear of Harry Kane, and the big other sort of result from last weekend was Arsenal beating my Manchester United 3-2 at the Emirates. Marcus Rashford actually has the most goals in the EPL since the World Cup, with 9 from 9 starts. Interesting, him and Bukayo Saka going up against each other in this one. They were the two blokes that missed those pens against Italy in the Euros, and there was all that social media noise / racism directed at them, and both have only come back stronger. So it's good to see that on an individual level. As a United fan, fuck you, Saka, and fuck you, Arsenal. No, joking aside, it's good to see them. Because they're both young when they're taking those penalties, and that's immense pressure to put on a young man. And obviously, they've come away better footballers because of it. So it's good to see. If we're talking EPL, we got to talk about Newcastle and the impact of again a little bit of oil money coming in short.
Where are they sitting at the moment?
Fourth,
still fourth.
Yeah, fourth, I believe. If you wouldn't mind bringing that one up, they actually have the most clean sheets kept in the EPL. Nick Pope is their keeper. He's kept 12 clean sheets last I saw. That's 3 more than Gunners and 4 more than United. Definitely doing some things right up there, up the Geordie Shore. Monks has got the table there. So Gunners have a game in hand and sit 5 points clear of City. So one would think it's a 2-horse race between those two, just past the halfway mark of the season. United actually sit below Newcastle in terms of goal difference, which is massive. 22 for United. Only conceded 11. Like we're talking about, defending very, very well. So it's those two with Spurs and Brighton going into Fulham, Brentford in pursuit. Liverpool and Chelsea already disappointed probably with their series.
Liverpool should just get relegated.
Well, talking about that's a good segue into Everton. We've sort of alluded to it throughout the year. It's starting to become a real possibility. They're 4 losses out of their last 5, with the other game being a draw. Frank Lampard, he got the sack this week. They're up for sale as well. So the owner, I think his name's Farhad Mashiri. I think he wants out. They were looking at getting that now Danjuma over. He was like, saw the state of the club. He's like, whatever I put to paper, you put that through the fucking shredder. Both ways, thanks.
Burn that, please.
I don't want to go there. And I think we've spoken about it on the podcast, but it would be undoing, 80 years of history if they get relegated, and it's starting to look more like a reality.
I did think I saw Ryan Reynolds, his co-ownership in his...
Wrexham,
They're top.
They're top.
So I think, are they top of 4 and they're going to go into 3rd?
I don't know.
Something like that,
I've got that. My list of shit to watch is just keeps growing. I spoke about the test earlier and how good it is, and then, you throw in sprinkle a little bit of Yellowstone in there, and fucking White Lotus did a bit, and geez, it's hard to find the time, but I'd love to watch that Wrexham show with Ryan Reynolds, Van Wilder party liaison throwback 20 years ago. What are we talking about? Oh, Everton going down.
I think we finished on Everton.
Wrexham going up.
Going up. Yes.
And we have to mention, if we're talking football, we have to talk about the young Australian of the year in our Mobile. He burst onto the scene as a Socceroo, scoring a goal on his debut. I think he netted 5 times out of his first 7, something along those lines. And he's picked up the Young Australian of the Year award during the week. Newcastle United's picked him up, although I think from there he's on loan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Over to Scotland, maybe Hearts. I think there's a few Aussies over there.
That sounds about right.
No, that might be another young Socceroo. Anyways,
there's a bunch of Socceroos on loan that are playing
in Scotland.
That
aside, he's won Australian of the Young Australian of the Year. So kudos to him. I think most of it coming out of his background,
his story.
Coming out of refugee camps and the rest of it. I think of South Sudanese heritage. So kudos to you, and looking forward to following you. That's right. It's he's gone to La Liga, has he not?
So he's
Sparta Prague.
Yeah, Sparta Prague on loan
from La Liga.
Okay.
With an option to buy from La Liga side.
We got there.
Yes.
We threw out 4 countries, 1 6.
Got there in the end.
regardless, he's the young Australian of the year. So humble beginnings as a refugee, and then coming over here and getting his start in the A-League, and he's now doing a bit in Europe. And then speaking of someone, a big sort of name coming over to the A-League is Morgan Schneiderlin, currently in Nice in France in Ligue 1, and formerly of Manchester United central defensive midfielder fame. Looks like the Wanderers have put pen to paper with him. So that's a bit of fun for the Wanderers.
Yeah, it may not be Ronaldo, but it's good. It's good. Going to keep getting some veteran talent, big names coming down into Australia soccer.
It's massive. That'll lead us into the final round. I'm going to go for a quick toilet break. I'll get you guys to introduce the light heavyweights.
You scroll those notes down for me?
And we also need a...
You did it already. Oh. You took your headphones off. You didn't hear it. It doesn't play if you don't have your headphones on. So UFC in boxing news. Let's start with UFC. So we didn't get to cover UFC 283 last week, but I think we'll cover probably... we can run through most of them. So Hill has defeated Teixeira for the light heavyweight championship. Let's start there. Unanimous decision, 50-44. So he had 10-8 round in that. I watched this and definitely was the better of the two. Glover had his moments, really tried for the takedown at points, but Hill was just too good. Too good here. Now goes to 12-1, has beaten Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker, Santos, and a Glover now. What's interesting was he had lost to Paul Craig, who was his one loss there. But Paul Craig unfortunately got knocked out by Johnny Walker on the bottom of this card. So, if Craig had won that, he was probably in the conversation there. I think he was ranked 6th or 7th or something. So would have been in that conversation, but Johnny Walker takes that spot. Glover, though, he retires aged 43. His quote there, I think I'm too tough for my own good, which is probably true. He got beaten up and he had massive cuts above his eyes in this one. He's 42 years now, had 20 years in fighting, 33 in 9 overall. Did win the title, of course, at 42, but been in some wars of late. Had some visa problems early in his career, but other than that, was excellent. Ended up being a bit of a rough day, though, for the Brazilians, and we might come back and talk about the lightweight, heavyweight division when Pepe's back.
Yeah, well, that is a big question.
Yeah, it does open a very big question for that division. But if we keep going, another loss for Brazil, unfortunately, with Figueiredo going down to Brandon Murillo through a doctor stoppage, essentially closed their eye up. They thought maybe eye poke, illegal strike, but if anything, the punch, the right hand beforehand might have been a little bit open and might have caused a bit of discomfort, but the left straight that hit him on the eye, which eventually closed, was a closed fist to me and looked legit. Figueiredo's eyes completely closed shut to the point he couldn't see. So the doctor stop it, win there for Brandon, which will take their records to 2-1-1 with him in the lead. And from that, Figgy, who's 35, is going up a division. He can't keep making the 125. He's going to go to bantamweight at 135. Be interesting to see what he can do in that division, whether he can make the improvements or what he needs to do going in there to be competitive at 135, because that is a very tough division at the moment with Sterling, I think, waiting for Henry Cejudo. So
plus O'Malley, plus Yarn.
Plus etc. So, it'll be interesting to see if he can go up there. But now you're back, Pepe. Light heavyweight division. Where do we think it is? 4 champs, 2 years. John Jones hasn't fought in 3. Has his fight booked, as we mentioned, with Garn in a couple of months' time.
Not far.
Bit of an aging division. Yarn is 39. Probably doesn't have long left. What do we think? Do we think it's Petrarca and Hill? I think that's a chat There's been I'm not sure if you've seen the meme. It's become a meme promo because he did the one in the snow that he's coming, and then Hill did one in the snow. I saw Bella Muhammad, who where's he fight? Middleweight, welterweight did one as well. Like they're just they've got snow about. They're in the snow and they shoot the same promo. But interesting there. So yeah, I think that's probably the next fight, depending on Petrarca's. I'm saying that wrong.
Prahaka. You're talking about the midfielder from the Melbourne Demons. He's a bull. He's a bull.
Whether Yuri is healthy enough. There'd been the chat about Alex Pereira from middleweight stepping up and
revenge. Adesanya 2 has been announced. It
has been announced though. So whether that revenge fight there, because of course he was in Teixeira's corner. They trained together. So which would be a very interesting fight. I think Alex probably wins that one. But he, as you mentioned, has been booked with Adesanya with Israel for their rematch, which is in April, which will be a high-quality fight because Israel was leading that fight for most of it. So we'll see how that plays out. So, yeah. Thoughts on the light heavyweight division?
I think John Jones has left a massive
gaping hole.
Yeah, a massive hole in it. And it's kind of interesting because he essentially cleaned out that division, arguably the greatest fighter of all time. Possibly some asterisks on it. But it's made it very interesting over the last few years. It probably makes you appreciate how good John Jones was at striking and not letting people take him down.
I think, the division's still catching up. I think it's the main thing.
Yeah, like UFC being the premier championship around, having John Jones there has probably been a bit of a detractor to up-and-coming fighters who would probably want to go to Bellator or UFC. I mean, not UFC. One.
Maybe. But then also it's just like you're a fighter.
The pinnacle is the UFC.
The ego part of it as well is like I'm unbeatable.
But
John Jones has just been so good. Like I don't think it mattered.
Yeah, well that's it. Or would you see more fighters like trying to get into middleweight or heavyweight to try and avoid the light heavyweight division? I think
maybe. Well, DC did it. So.
Yeah.
Twice, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it. So I think with him obviously he's been out of the game for a while. With Teixeira now retiring, depending on how Prahaka goes with his recovery, you might start seeing light heavyweight become a little more competitive because you haven't got that top tier fighters. You've got that second tier. Not that they're any slouches at fighting. I wouldn't want to go up against any of them, let alone the fact that they've got
light heavyweight.
Yeah, let alone they've got 20, 30, 40 kilos on me.
I, as your friend, wouldn't want to see you fight Brandon Moreno.
How much money are you making?
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Jokes aside, it's opened the division way up, and you've got to talk about guys like Ankalaev and Rakic who are sitting there chomping their bit to have a go at nothing. Not to take away from what Jamal Hill has been able to achieve, but maybe one of the weaker light heavyweight champions that we've seen in recent times.
Yeah, the division needs to grow. Like even all the way down to Johnny Walker there, like who I said before, got a win on this card.
Keep on walking, baby.
You can see that he wouldn't be ready to take on a John Jones in his prime, like for that kind of belt. Like I think
But would anyone?
No, but that's what I'm saying. I think the division as a whole needs to improve and try to catch up where the distance is, where maybe John Jones has stifled it a little bit. Kind of like what happened to Ronda, where she was so dominant, but the division caught her up eventually.
Yep.
The girls got better, and then they caught up with it. And you see that even with, I'd say, Aldo with featherweight. That's probably a great example. The division kind of caught up to him, and then everyone else did as well. And the division's now full of killers. So that's kind of where we hope the light heavyweight division goes. So the rest of the fights on this card, probably not a lot to write home about. Gilbert Burns did it easy, as did Jessica Andrade in their fights. Easy wins for them in this one. Anthony Smith missed weight. It's probably the only other story as the backup. He tried cutting weight for like 3 days straight to try and lose like 5 pounds. So he had a bit of a rough weight cut. Only missed it by 1.5 pounds. So he tried, he really tried. He was only the backup in this in case anything happened to the first two. But
I'm just wondering how he's actually a little bit younger than I had thought. He's 34. Yeah. So in my mind, he might have been a touch older than that. So probably still has a few good years in him.
Exactly. And in ranked 6 in this division, you can still potentially be involved, be impacted. And as mentioned, UFC 287 got announced during the week. Looks pretty good. Burns fresh off that win as well. Will take on Masvidal.
Personal investment. Would love to see Burns clip Masvidal here, given Masvidal's antics over the last few years.
Agree. We mentioned the rematch already. So that's probably as a top there is a very, very big card. Welterweight, we've got Kevin Holland coming back. He was injured, so he's a quick turnaround for him, which is good. And he gets a bit of an up-and-comer there, I think, in don't make me try and say his name.
Santiago Ponzinibbio. Of interesting ears fame.
Yes, interesting ears fame. So that looks like it'll be an interesting fight in the welterweight division. So card building there for April 9th, and that's building out nicely. And other UFC news, Conor McGregor hit by a car on his bike the other day. So
is he okay?
Okay, by all accounts. Doesn't seem like he will suffer any ill effects. Some rumours he and Tony Ferguson were offered to do The Ultimate Fighter as coaches. Leading into them potentially having a bout, which would be interesting. That's not a bad interesting lightweight fight. We'll see. And I guess the only other news in the fighting world that's of interest, Jake Paul, Tommy Fury booked for the third time. They're doing an Abu Dhabi, which will help with Tommy Fury's visa issues because he couldn't get into the US. So the Fury boys have, Tyson and his dad, John, I think, from memory, basically said he's got to win, otherwise he's going to be disowned. They'll make him change his last name. So
did you see Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports and Joe Rogan getting into it over Tommy Fury's ability to box?
I actually was surprised that Jake's taller than him. So
big,
he's and
Portnoy was essentially saying on the biggest platform in the world that he's a scrub.
Yeah, well, he hasn't fought recently, and as you do in boxing, you probably pad your record a little bit with scrubs as you work your way into main kind of pro boxing.
I think it's intrigued for me. Like I haven't really bought into the YouTuber fighting kind of realm, but he's fighting someone his own age and his own size. It kind of
with a boxing background.
It kind of for me as an admitted casual in the boxing realm, it kind of wanes a bit of interest more so than some of these other sort of celebrity fights against aging or undersized Floyd Mayweathers and the like.
Yes. So I think Floyd's actually got another exhibition fight coming up.
Yeah,
as well.
He'll print that money. He's not getting knocked out.
But I think so. They had in-ring standoff, which I think was the Bellator just before the main card on the Bellator fight. Because maybe they were doing because Bellator does mixed martial arts and your kickboxing now. So I think it was a kickboxing ring they were doing the standing off on. So it was actually a rope ring, not a cage. That's the difference. Ring versus cage. Tommy Fury had his shirt off, a bit of push and shove, got a bit physical. But yeah, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I think Tommy was the reason for the other two both being cancelled. So we'll see. Hopefully. I think Jake's going to win, honestly, at this point.
Is there a date?
Yes.
End of March?
I think it might be February. When's it booked? It's soon. Like, it might even be 6 weeks away, which would be March.
Which would be mid-March. I think you might. It's end of February. It's end of February.
Yeah, so it's very, very soon. So looking forward to the result of that. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Speaking of February, big month upcoming. Obviously, Australia and India going to duke it out. We'll talk about the Super Bowl. Yep. We'll talk about those NBA All-Stars and some stacked fights upcoming. And then rugby league and AFL just around the corner. So never stops really in the wide world of sports. I suppose amongst tragics that are interested in a bunch of them, it tends to keep the good times rolling. Thank you to anyone that has tuned in today to the pod, whether you listen live and contributed some comments, we appreciate that, or if you're listening to us on the tools or on the way to work this week, we appreciate the support. We won't be here next week, so we'll book in for a fortnight. That'll be just before Super Bowl. That'll be just before Australia and India duke it out in the first test. And yeah, we got to start looking at AFL and NRL teams, don't we? And have to start putting a few opinions and thoughts together regarding the upcoming footy seasons. There's always a bit going on. Thank you to anyone that's listened and supported the show. We appreciate it. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, bye. Thank you. See you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye.